Otis car expects to go to the moon on December 7th. The 8 were yours truly, L.J., Warren Park of the Journal American, Al Lotman and J.J. Farber Lotman, insurance brokers, Ellery Lanier, author and lecturer, Dave Field, geologist, Sam Vanderbilt, the photographer, Ben Ipswich, the cybernetician, and Sergeant Morris Paley of the Perth Amboy Police Department. We recorded all of this material on a small midget tape recorder. Tonight we bring you the story on tape, and we'll also be live part of the night, for Warren Pack and Ellery Lanier are here with me. But now, let's turn the clock back to Friday afternoon, April 17th. We arrived at Oklahoma City. I had the opportunity of interviewing the captain. And let's see what the captain of our plane had to say. A couple of minutes ago, I said that we hope to have the opportunity of talking with Captain R.A. Plumbridge. He was responsible for bringing us into Oklahoma City, and it was a wonderful trip except for maybe about 30 or 40 minutes, and we're possibly an hour and 38 minutes late, but in general we've enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. Captain, I wanted to ask you one question in particular. We talk on the program that I have back in New York a lot of times about flying saucers. Have you ever seen anything in the sky that appeared to be a little unusual, possibly something that you could not identify?
Yes, I have. I've never seen what I would say was a flying saucer, but I have seen meteorological phenomena, which I finally, after much staring and glancing and watching, determined to be just that and not flying saucers. I have never seen one, but I have talked to several pilots who have.
These pilots that you refer to, and we certainly are not going to ask for their names, do they think that they actually saw flying saucers?
They are positive they have, and one whom I know very well has convinced me.
Captain, when they use the term flying saucers, does this automatically imply that this craft could possibly be from another planet?
Well, when a pilot uses that term, it means a type of aircraft which he has never seen or heard of before, and we're fairly familiar with all the types of aircraft that are used in this country.
Mm-hmm. One other question, sir. I know that we're taking a lot of your valuable time, but as the captain of this ship, are you permitted to perform marriages?
No.
Not that I want to get married, believe me. Thank you very, very much, Captain. It's been a pleasure flying with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
This is Warren Pack. I'm speaking to you from the Oklahoma City airport. It is now 3:30 New York time, 3:30 in the morning, that is, 2:30 Oklahoma City. A few moments ago, the plane from New York landed here. We were about an hour and a half late, but this didn't stop the celebration here. There's a phone going in the background here. I'm standing in the office above the airport, and out in front of me is the airplane in which we arrived, TWA plane. I'm the only one of the party of 8 from New York that has landed. Despite the late hour and the late arrival, there was a group of some 100 people who were waiting for LongJohn and the rest of the 49 commentators to get off the plane. I was kicked off. It was going to be sort of a Western celebration. They're waiting right now for John to get off the plane. I could see John very faintly through the front of the glass in the cockpit. I'm just trying to hold on here for a while so we actually get John come off the plane. Now I think just as you saw that Morris Taylor and the rest of them are coming down the plane. And here comes John now. It's too bad you can't hear the excitement. I can just see through the glass, and there's a lot of noise down there.
And it looks like two Western boys have grabbed John. They're wearing six-shooters, and they've got cowboy hats on and all the usual equipment. And now they're dragging him down through the front of the airport towards the main airport depot, I guess you call it. And you see them shooting out their guns, and a couple of boys are treating John a little bit roughly, it looks like. You don't know, look as though he thinks it's a joke or not a joke. And now, let me see, they're stopping for a moment. I can see looks like they've got a rope with them, too. And there's 3 or 4 guys dragging John towards the depot. And wait a minute, there's a lot of light down there. Oh, this is something you should be able to see for yourself. We just have cameras here. The 2 gentlemen or 3 gentlemen who are taking John towards the airport seem to have been stopped by the good men. The good boys have come out finally. There's a gun duel going on, and right now there are 3 guys lying dead, supposedly, on the ground. They're taking John now into the airport. He's now been rescued, but you have to move over here a little bit further. There seems to be some kind of a court going on here because John has got a rope around his neck right now. This may be good news for some people back in New York. And let me see now. There's somebody there dressed as a judge, obviously, and a sheriff, and is having some kind of a mock trial. And that seems to be just about the end of it. There's a lot of cameramen down there, a lot of people bustling around. There's some people here from the various groups, Horizons Unlimited, and some of the OTC people are around. Norman Colton hasn't gotten into town yet, I don't believe, but it's kind of late, and I think we're going to be heading downtown in just a few minutes for the motel where we're staying. It's the Town Park Motel in Oklahoma City. And I think now they're getting ready to get into the cars, and I think that I will have to leave you right now, because I have to get the microphone out of here and we'll go downtown to see what happens next.
Well, you can say what you want, neighbors, but that was a mighty, mighty exciting bit. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. I was interviewing the captain of our plane at the time, and I figured somebody came into the plane. Everybody had gotten off, maybe 10 or 15 minutes prior to the time that somebody came to the front of the plane. Where I was interviewing the captain, they said, John, you'll have to come out as soon as possible with a big crowd outside. So I cut the interview short with the captain of the plane, and I got to the top of that staircase that they have there, and there was a big crowd behind the fence. I understand they had about 4 or 5 times that much a couple of hours prior to the time that we arrived there, but we got late. We arrived late, and so some of them actually had to go to bed. Well, as I got down to the bottom of this stairway, 2 fellas, one from each side, I guess they were the bad men, grabbed me. They were in not chinos, but the Levi's, and they had the guns, and they started to shoot. And these were real guns. I'm not kidding. These are not cap pistols. I realized that something was going on because there was a lot of photographers flashing pictures, but it was a rather exciting bit. Now, here's Warren's recap of what happened during the early morning hours of our first day in Oklahoma City.
Well, this is Warren Pack again. It's now 9 o'clock Saturday morning, April 18th. And this has been one long night and morning, I might say, and with a lot of dramatic surprises, which we're going to tell you about in a few moments. I'm just a little bit beat. I think everybody else in the whole group is. It's been a long night. It was a long trip. We left New York at 6:15. We got in here at 2:30, actually 3:30 New York time. And we worked one year and a half what we thought was breakfast, and then hit the surfing. We were going to get a little rest for today, but something happened. We had dinner at the downtown restaurant. This was at 6 in the morning, but they were open all night. And a young man came over from a television station, and he wanted to interview John. Well, John was there to work himself, and he turned him over to me. And this fellow has some interesting stories to tell. It seems that he has been stepping into the flight of the so-called prototype model of Otis car. And he said that the prototype of Otis car, X1, is now located in a formerly abandoned warehouse in the outskirts of town. Now, this is possible. I'll put up my space right here, but it seems that the model is not completed according to this gentleman. Well, this is the story we heard, and of course John was very eager to look into it. So after finishing breakfast about 7:30 in the morning, we headed out for this place, and it was quite a morning there, wasn't it? The weather, Ellery?
This is one of the most fantastic mornings in my lifetime.
Of course, Al Rotman was right in the car with LongJohn, and Ellery and I were behind him. How was John taking it all, Al?
I can't say John was actually taking it in a placid manner. This cloak and dagger bit was really intriguing, and the nature provided a most wonderful background, lightning, thunder, rain. And John was, I must say, quite tense about it, quite tense. It was something that presented a challenge to him, and you know to what I am referring. And John's acceptance of a challenge isn't something that he will delay. He was tense.
Well, we headed out there, and Ellery was in the car with me, and we followed Al driving John and some other people, and we went out, it must have been about, how far do you think it was, Ellery?
Well, I think we went about, I'd say about 8 or 9 miles across town.
You want to describe how we pulled up that building and what it looked
Well,
like?
I'd say this was an experience out of Edgar Allan Poe and out of Edgar Rice Burroughs and out of the whole crew of science fiction writers. This was the wildest thing. It was before dawn, and this big thunderstorm and lightning hitting around, the sky lit up with flashes.
And that lightning was amazing. I never saw it.
And we kept going through this rainstorm, and we finally pulled up to this old, deserted-looking, corrugated iron building, and behind a long alleyway we spotted this shack with the rain pouring down on us, and inside this shack we knew was the secret of all time.
We thought there was. We still weren't sure that we had gotten the right story from the Cosmo TV man. Now, let's leave our car for a moment. We were talking behind John. We didn't know what was going to happen next. And then we saw John jump out of the car. So we better go back to Al and see what happened right then when John left the car and headed out into the rain.
Yeah, well, John left the car, and again, with appropriate background from nature, thunder and lightning. And for some reason or other, Warren, the deserted area and whatnot, made me a bit anticipating something, might happen to John. So I turned to Morris Taylor and gave him the proper police background. All I had to do was lift my head. He understood. And Warren, Hollywood couldn't have staged this better. Morris slithered out of the automobile. He followed John around the corner of the building.
Well, since Morris is standing right by you, Morris, tell me, you the only guy that saw John go into the building. What happened? We couldn't see what was going on.
Well, as John went into the building, I stayed into the shadow, and as soon as the door was closed,
I noticed that they moved into a second room behind another door. Did you let him in right away?
No. John, with his usual persuasive method, talked them into letting him in. I don't know what took place on the inside. And I went around to the side of the building, figuring that I might be able to hear and, at the same time, keep out of view. And as they went into that second room, I lost all contact with John, and I had to wait until such time that John came out again. Of course, the story of what went on in there was something that had to come from John. But the amazing thing was to sit here, and I was sitting in the car with Ellery, and the rain was coming down, and this lightning, and it was a terrible night. And this was, I tell you, this was the creepiest looking place I ever saw in my life. From the outside. I know Al had something you want to mention.
Yeah, there was one more bit that added to it. Sam, our beloved cable photographer, in the rain gets out of the car, and he goes around to the building which was in front of the building that Sam was going into. Well, he didn't want to be seen, and I've never seen a pose of a photographer just to my right. He was behind the building, he had his camera around one way, his battery on another way, and he was trying to snap a picture. And then I had the thought of the great invention of Street. It's a man-can, a camera that can turn a corner. In this one case, it really was necessary.
Well, the big thing that was up to John to discover was the model of the OTC X1 in this building. Would it get off the ground? Was it assembled? And what was going on? Why all this cloak and dagger stuff? Well, we have a direct report from inside this very hush-hush secret room.
in its formerly abandoned warehouse from John himself.
Now, this was accomplished under very difficult circumstances. There was a long wire necessary to get all the equipment in there, and of course, John was speaking for a very small room, and it was there were 5 or 6 people there, I believe, but we'll just sort of let it go now and switch now to the special warehouse in the city of Oklahoma City, and now to John.
Well, we're in Oklahoma City, and you can take my word for it, neighbors. It's a nasty, nasty morning. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, just about 30 minutes after the time that we would have turned off. And we are on WOR, because we had something on tape. We have heard it high and low for the past couple of hours in Oklahoma City for the place where they're assembling the 6-foot prototype model of the OTC circular foil craft. Now, this is the craft that we have been told will possibly be launched this coming Sunday at Frontier City in Oklahoma, which is located on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. It is quite obvious to me that what I am looking at the present time, actually 3 sections of the OTC circular craft, that these sections have not been built completely in this factory. I would say that some of the assembling has been done here. It would be very difficult for me to tell you how this is going to work. Of course, we've heard from Carr that they use the neutron accumulators, whatever that is, but we possibly learn more about that after a little while. I see the base of the prototype model, a 3-wheeled base. I see the bottom section of it. I see the top section of it, the lid, and I see a centerpiece. Now I'm going to talk with a Mr. Carini. Mr. Carini is associated with OTC Enterprises. They have about, let me try to make it count here. At the present time, I see about 14 men working hard, and I understand that they've been working around the clock. Mr. Carini, will you come over here a moment, please? I don't know how much information you will reveal to me, but I would like to ask you this. What is this center section in back of you? What is that?
The center section is the power energizing unit of the complete craft. This is where the energy is developed that is sent out to power the field coils with which we build up our magnetic force here that are projected around the periphery of the craft. And in the process of building up these fields, we developed through a very unique and novel regenerating feedback system, a free energy system, a transfer of energy, which comes back to the center accumulator, which is very similar to the regenerating accumulator, only in a larger way. And because of the regenerating accumulator, unique and novel circuitry, we establish a free energy transfer, which enables us, once our unit is activated, to be able to continue in activation without any outside source of power or energy input. Now, as you perhaps would be well aware, this presents us a unit with many, many ramifications. Let me ask you this, Mr. Carini.
I don't know if this is a fair question or not, because I know a lot of the equipment here is based on the principles developed by Carr and Tesla, at least as we've been told by Carr that this is how he got his information, was through Tesla. Are these actually magnets here?
Can you tell us that?
Yes, these are electromagnetic coils. And they are properly phased and wound in such a way, and the relationships of these coils are correlated with the regenerating accumulators and the center accumulator in such a unique way that this system becomes balanced and it becomes an interchanging system. And as I say, once it is activated from the center out, it becomes a balanced returning system that becomes a free energized, or in other words, self-energizing.
Is this based on the same principle that the plans are based on that are sold by OTC Car Enterprises?
Yes, precisely. And there are quite vivid, accurate descriptions on these plans and circulars that have been distributed quite widely. And there are also many variations possible with this system. There are many other types of systems that can be developed from this basic system. Many refinements can be made, which, as I mentioned before, gives us many possible ramifications. And we are very fortunate, myself and the people that I am associated with here on this project, to have become associated with Mr. Carr to promote these principles and these devices for the benefit of mankind. And we feel that we are all greatly dedicated to this work. We feel that this work is going to be a tremendous revelation to the world, and it's going to bring so many wonderful changes that we will all be able to share in, and I'm sure that it is going to be present many wonderful days in the very near future. And of course, particularly for a day, that's public demonstration, which is scheduled for the 19th, as you are aware of.
Mr. Kareem, I've been in town for a couple of hours. I haven't had any sleep for about the last 48. I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people claim that you'll never even put this up. They tell me that you possibly will bring this out on a truck or some type of vehicle, maybe a flat truck, and just display it and say, well, they've had trouble at Cape Canaveral, so friends, don't be too disappointed. Maybe next week we'll be able to launch it. What do you think about that?
Well, LongJohn, I would like to say this, that I have never made a statement that I didn't feel in my heart was true, or that I knew couldn't be kept at the time it was made. That I myself and my associates would not be a party to this type of action in any manner whatsoever. And that we know these principles are sound and that they will work. There's no question about it in our mind.
How high do you think this will go Sunday if it is launched, Mr. Carini?
It will go as high as we allow it to go. Now, for reasons of being practical and common sense, from a common sense point of view, we are going to have to put a restraining control on the height. And it probably will reach a height of approximately 250 to 400 feet.
Is there any possibility that people's lives may be endangered this coming Sunday when this craft is launched? Somebody told me around town here that there's a possibility that a magnet or something may fly out of the aluminum skin that is wrapped around this saucer-shaped craft.
Well, as you are aware, LongJohn, the governments of the world who have unlimited finances and resources have made certain statements, and these statements, unfortunately, haven't held true in many cases. We can make reference to many things that have happened in the past, but just very briefly, we could make reference to many missiles and rockets that have been said to be able to perform in a certain way, but haven't because of malfunctioning parts. Now, Nothing is infallible, LongJohn. You know this. You're all aware of this. We hope and pray that there will be no problems. We are doing everything within our power, within the time allotted to us, to take all sorts of precautions to prevent any possible kind of error or mishap. We feel high confidence that there will be no problems whatsoever in this direction. And we are leaving it in the hands of the Father, and we're sure that the guidance that we have had, that everything will go along as scheduled and planned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kareem, and good luck to you, and happy saucer flying this coming Sunday.
Thank you very much.
This is WOR Radio, your station in New York. LongJohn with the party line.
Warren, we've got a couple of people waiting here to be interviewed, and I think that you talked to this gentleman a few minutes ago, so supposing you take it over.
All right.
And now we're going to be speaking to a young man who's sitting right across here right now, and I see the name is Hayden Hughes. Hello, Hayden. Where are you from? Oklahoma City. Let me see. You represent the Associate Director of Air Traffic Office. Is this a planetary intelligence of unidentified flying objects, which I can hardly pronounce? What is this group?
Well, our main purpose is just investigating flying saucer sightings.
I see. You had quite a few around here?
You mean sightings or members?
Sightings.
Well, February the 20th, Friday night, we had the most sightings we've had. We had 8 sightings reported to us.
What day was this again?
February the 20th.
Of this year?
Friday night.
Yeah.
And we investigated these sightings out and compiled reports and sent them. We have a technical advisory board.
Mm-hmm.
And we sent reports out to the engineer and our waiting for.
Well, these 8 sightings, how many do you feel were legitimate?
Well, we've only about 10 or so.
Yes, definitely.
May I have your name?
Jane Maney. I'm deputy director of the same group.
All right, Jane.
And we have ruled out, we have 9 reports. We've ruled out 2 and possibly a 3rd.
Oh. So you haven't checked on all of them yet completely?
Well, 2 of them are out of town. We have not had a chance to interview them yet.
Now, when you say you ruled them out, what happened? What happened to make you rule them out, Hayden?
Well, one sighting, it happened again at the same time, same instant. It turned out to be just an ordinary light reflection. And then, what was...
Well, there was a local TV newsman. He discovered that his object was a light on top of a water tower.
Oh, well, I saw one of these coming downtown from New York myself. It was reflected on a roof. It looked like something. But tell me, how did you get into this kind of work for avocation, Hayden?
Well, to me, it was just a mystery. The flying saucers really came from it. I wanted to answer this question. And sometimes fire sightings I think, I can't quote any, but on my team I set up this proposed tutorial. Well, not in the way of our organization, if the saucer sighting goes unidentified, well, we'll say it's unidentified. If it goes to be a reflected light, we're going to say that it's reflected light. Mm-hmm. And we're planning to publish a publication that will list the our findings and all.
Let's find a little bit about Hayden Hughes. How old are you, Hayden?
I'm 15 years old.
How long have you been interested in this kind of thing?
Approximately 3.5 years.
You go to school around here?
I go to Northwest Clemson High School.
Northwest. When did you first become interested in this subject, UFOs?
Well, it started around 3.5 years ago. I really didn't do much then except read a magazine article I'd find here and there. Then I got more interested in it and got a copy of Free Promise magazine, Flying Saucers. And I started writing a paper on that and getting hold of different people and everything, and then I got that about organizing the Flying Saucer Club, which I did with Mr. William S. Rafer. He helped sponsor me, and we organized it August 1st of this year.
Have you ever seen a flying saucer yourself or a UFO?
Well, I haven't, I wouldn't say seen flying saucers, but I have seen an object that was unidentified to me. I didn't know what it was.
How about you, Jimmy?
Well, I've never seen a flying saucer personally, no.
Oh, when you're investigating one of these things, let's take it without mentioning your name. What do you do, and how does your organization work?
Well, say you were a member of our organization, and Jim reported seeing an object, right? And you happen to live in his town.
Well, since you're a member, you have to have these forms to fill out, and that's it, and you would interview it. Right. And ask them different questions. Now, you would mail that, the questionnaires, after you filled them out, send to us, and we would have them on file, and then we have a technical apology board. Yeah. Of, apologies. And we'll fill up those spots to the, flying council form, and we just do it. What they think it is by the evidence of the thing.
When you uncovered false sightings, have you ever found anything amusing? I mean, like somebody seeing the top of his roof lighted up or something like that?
Well, not in that sense. We did have one sighting that appeared rather strange to us. That happened up on the top to it.
Well, I don't really tell which one you're talking about right there.
Joe.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And he claimed that he was driving with his mother in his car, and he was listening to the opera, and then all of a sudden his beat, like on the Sputniks, came on. And it appeared with his radio, and then he saw this object, it appeared just as a light, and all of a sudden it would flash up bright.
Is it in the sky?
Yeah, it was in the sky hovering, and he didn't know what it was, and he reported to us, and we interviewed him, and we have it on tape, and which the tape is now up with Doug Lynch from New York. And then after we present all this evidence that we have to our technical advisory board members, they mail it back to us, and then the findings of the more unknown objects, we send them to a panel of scientific men. And then the conclusion of them and our technical advisory board, well, they're published in a publication we're planning on publishing.
Tell me, what are you interested in right here today and tomorrow? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm interested in about Otis two colonies, where the new energy concept is going to work.
You think it will work?
Well, and my theory is this process for us, I think there's a good possibility that it'll work. Because anybody that put it like that, on a two colonies, that might be some kind of thing why he was getting this much trouble and putting this much work into.
Well, we just saw a gentleman here from Michigan who said that he believes there are flying saucers from other planets. Do you think so?
Well, this is my opinion and not the club's opinion. If flying saucers are real, I say there's a possibility that they can come from outer space. And I have a lot of explanation of the theory you've worked on the possibility if they do come from outer space, where they could come from, and there's the possibility that it's some craft of Earth, which I think is doubtful. I would go to opinion and say that they were probably interplanetary.
You said you have a theory where they came from. What planet do you think it's from?
Well, it's not a planet now. There's an asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. In my opinion, this planet was once like the planet Earth, a twin. Because meteorites that have come to Earth, fell to Earth, have contained the same elements that are found here on Earth. And my opinion is that these people on this planet knew the planet was going to be pulled apart. So they built spacecraft that happened to be in the form of saucers. And they couldn't go to Jupiter because of the methane gas. So they went to Mars, because Mars is also like our planet with water and an atmosphere. And they first built around the polar ice cap with water. As their population grew, well, they had to expand the polar ice cap for water, and so they built the so-called, most talked about, canals to irrigate the planet. And then when they were on this planet, they could observe Earth better. And so they built ships to go out, outer space and scout, and with the atomic bomb and the hydrogen bombs being exploded on Earth, they got to investigate this. And the reason there's only been a few contact stories, I'm not saying I believe in them, but I'm not saying I don't believe in them. Well, they came to Earth, made contacts, they were a friendly race, there was no need to invade us. We were coming up, they were several hundred years more advanced than us. And see, the meteorites coming to Earth from this pulled apart planet, back about my opinion, I think this planet was much colder with water and their life than we know life.
Let me just say one thing, Hayden. If this is true, this is a race similar to what we call mankind here. I would think that at least one of them was perhaps contact what we would call an organized government.
Well, I've thought about that too, and that's one of the features that tell me from believing us the way you want to do it. There's something else like that. That whole effect, but that, in my opinion, is one explanation of where they could possibly come from. I know this might be something I've read in the last year,
What do you think will happen tomorrow at 3 o'clock?
Well, I think that there's a possibility that his machine will work. Because of all the work that he's put in it, OTCX1 will take off. I believe it will. And if it doesn't get, I think they were planning to go up 100, 200 feet, something like that. Well, even if they don't achieve that height, if it even goes 50 feet, if energy concept works.
It goes 5 feet, it might work. Jenny, what about you? What do you think will happen?
Well, I think it'll either be a complete success or it'll be a total failure. It'll either revolutionize the history of the world with this new form of energy, probably the biggest advance of atomic energy, or it'll just go down as one of those things that happen that don't work out. That's I hope.
I think that's a very good way to end this up. Thank you, folks, for being with us. And I think we're going to get over and see OTC and perhaps Norman Colton ourselves right now.
When we arrived in Oklahoma City, we heard a number of rumors about Otis T. Carr, president of OTC Enterprises. We were told that he had left town, that he had flown back to Baltimore, Maryland. Other people told us that he was hiding out in one of the motels on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. Well, all I can say is we hunted and hunted and hunted, and eventually we heard a rumor that Otis T. Carr was ill. We checked around through the various hospitals, and we located him in Mercy Hospital in the heart of Oklahoma City. We are now in the Mercy Hospital in room 302, and lying in bed here is the president of OTC Enterprises, the man that is responsible for the 6-foot prototype model, that is the OTC circular foil craft, that we hope to see launched tomorrow afternoon, Sunday, April 19th, at Frontier City. Otis, we'd love to welcome you, but we can only say this, that we're quite concerned about your illness. What seems to be wrong?
Well, John, I've been here since last Sunday, and everything is coming along fine. For some unknown reason, we had a ruptured blood vessel at the upper lobe of our right lung, and we started a hemorrhage. And, of course, we didn't know what was wrong with it. And a very speedy, quick loss of blood, and they raced us to the hospital. And the good doctors and all the people here in a couple of days found out what was wrong with me, got me off my feet and prescribed rest so that this vein would heal, and it is doing so, and I'm supposed to be released in a couple of days.
Well, Otis, when you say that you'll be released in a couple of days, it implies that you will not be with us tomorrow at the launching of the craft.
No, unfortunately, the doctor wants this to completely heal. He does not want a recurrence or a relapse because these things can be dangerous. And having been quite concerned when we lost a pint of blood in about 30 seconds, we decided to follow the doctor's advice.
We're happy anyway to know that you're getting along and that you will be out in a couple of days. Let's get down to business. This morning, at about 6:30 or 7 o'clock, we were able to, when I say we, actually referring to yours truly, LJ, I was able to get into the plant on the outskirts of Oklahoma City to see the OTC circular foil craft. They had it in 3 sections at that time, 4 sections to be exact, and it wasn't completed. Do you honestly think, Otis, that will be ready for takeoff tomorrow, Sunday afternoon at 3?
It could be. I talked to my engineers an hour ago, and they claim that they will have it reassembled by midnight tonight. The craft is completely built. The reason it is in sections is for the electrical wiring circuit, which has to be done in sections and then reassembled. There's a good possibility that we will have a flight tomorrow, but we could also have a flat tire.
When you say a flat tire, what do you mean, Otis?
Well, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the craft. One of the circuits could go out. Something could happen to keep it from functioning properly.
When you say one of the circuits could go out, how many circuits do you have in the craft?
This is designed with a commutator that really has 12 make-and-break circuits, and there's actually 24 contacts.
Well, that doesn't mean too much to me. I want to ask you this. You say that it will be reassembled. Now, that implies that at one time it was assembled, and evidently you found some difficulty, and you had to take it apart again to try to make the thing go to find out what was wrong. Is that true, Otis?
No, this is not true. It was completely assembled as a mechanical unit and balanced. Then it had to be disassembled to be wired.
Otis, there's going to be a lot of people disappointed tomorrow at 3 o'clock, including, I imagine, Otis' key car, if this doesn't go up. What are you going to do about it?
We're going to continue to work and make it fly. It will fly. The principle has been validated, and it will certainly not be as big a disappointment as Cape Canaveral.
Do you compare your operation, your launching, to that of Cape Canaveral, Otis?
We think ours is much more historic and much more important than anything that's been done down there.
Why is yours more historic and more important than the launching of the rockets at Cape Canaveral?
Well, because what we're doing is what the Hilltoppers did 1,000 years ago, and we're repeating history and following nature. We feel that with the successful launching of the OTCX-1, that this generation of the space age has been born again.
Otis, I've got a couple of rough questions for you. If you don't want to answer them, you can just say no comment. First question that comes to my mind, because I've been digging around in Oklahoma City, and I've been getting, a number of rumors and sort of weaving them together, and I've got a piece of fabric now that's a little ripped in places. There's a few tears in it, and I hope that you can help me to repair it. Question number one. I have heard a rumor that there's a ride. It's a replica of the rocket, or rather the craft that you hope to build to go to the moon on December 7th, 1959. Now, somebody told me that a deal was made that if your craft, that is the prototype model that you hope to launch tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, if that fails to go up in the air, if it fails to get off the ground, you don't own a piece of the ride in the amusement park at Frontier City. Is this true or not true, Otis?
That is absolutely untrue. Our contract at Frontier City is that we furnish them the engineering and design for a replica of the OTCX-1. We also agreed, when we had succeeded in flight testing our prototype, that we would exhibit there, but there is no time on that.
Otis, I have a couple of more questions, but I notice that you're breathing rather heavily, and I can understand that this is kind of a strain. I know you're not a well man, and I'm going to be a little easy on you, but I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to give me a fair and square account. I think Oklahoma City is a wonderful community, but I'd rather be back in New York. Should I take the late plane out tonight, or should I wait till 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon?
I would suggest that you wait till 3 and after 3. I think that you're going to find tomorrow to be a very interesting historic day. This is a good date. I didn't realize this till a couple of days ago. It's the date that Paul Revere took his ride. Maybe some new history will be made again tomorrow.
That's a wonderful line to close on. I wonder if we're being taken for a ride. Thanks very much, Otis T. Carr. This is my laugh, but that other little laugh out there, that was the laugh of Otis T. Carr when I asked him the question about if we were being taken for a ride. Otis was in the hospital, and of course we're going to keep going so that you'll know everything. You'll get the whole bit. You'll know what happened. This is WOR Radio, your station in New York. LongJohn with the party line. I had to go to another part of town, that is in Oklahoma City, and we had two of our tape recorders with us, the Mohawks, and Warren Pack was able to contact Dana Howard to interview her and about her book Up Rainbow Hill.
That would be in the back of the little laugh track. That was a very funny thing, because actually there was a little discussion there
it seems that somebody else had just completed a book, and the title of it was Up Rainbow Hill. And Dana Howard, I understand, was a little concerned that somebody else had the same title. Now, I don't know, what actually happened afterwards, but we sort of got a kick out of the fact that both people had the same title. However, let's listen to Warren Clark interviewing Dana Howard.
This is Warren Clark with speaking to you today from Oklahoma City Sunday night, about 18 hours ago before the big moment when Otis is supposed to launch a 6-foot prototype of its large spacecraft. And we're sitting here in the Tom Park Motel, and we have a woman here who's written a number of books. Her name is Dana Howard. And in front of me, I have a book called Up Rainbow Hill, which is published by Llewellyn. I think it's in Los Angeles. I think it's Howard.
Yes, it is. 8121 National Boulevard.
Oh, nice round one. I don't know that street there. Tell me something about your book, first of all, Miss Howard.
Well, the book deals primarily with subjects, of course, that are a little advanced. At the same time, I tied it in with personalities that have lived. Will Rogers, Luther Burbank, and quite a few others.
This very colorful jacket, shows a path of people going up to the top of the mountain or a hill. And it seems to be a flying saucer up there. Am I right?
That's right.
How does the flying saucer come into the book?
Well, I feel that the flying saucers have launched us into a new dimension of thinking.
Is that one of the reasons why I'm here?
That's one of the reasons why I'm here.
I understand you had quite a long drive here. Where did you start out from?
Well, I was here in the Bay Area when I got a call from the LA Voice to come out here for the car demonstration. So I canceled Seattle and Portland and started south.
I see you in San Francisco. How long did
I
it
was
take?
well, I started from Los Angeles a week ago. And I went to Palm Springs out there again, and I've been traveling ever since.
I see. What do you think is going to happen to me tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock?
Well, I don't know. It really doesn't matter too much. I think that what doesn't happen tomorrow will happen some other day.
Have you met Mr. Carr?
I have. I met him in New York a year ago.
Have you heard him speak on the study to the...
I think I heard him the very first time he spoke at President's Convention in Northern California.
What do you think of his ideas?
I think his principle is very sound. As to the application, it may take a little time. I don't know.
You think he may be a little disappointed tomorrow, possibly?
It could be.
Getting back to your flying saucer in the book here, the other books, I'm going to get this book Rainbow Hill, but some of the other books which I haven't mentioned, like Flights of Venus, Diane, Over the Threshold, the Suitcases, Key Lobs, and
Well, that was just one of those things that was a 4-day deal, and was done as a... Well, I had some affidavits and tape recordings of this man, T. Lapson Rampa, and I just wove it into a little 4-day book.
Who is Mr. Rampa?
Well, he's a man that has been accused of being a complete fraud, the Tibetan Lama, who wasn't a Tibetan Lama at all. I don't go along with the fraud, but I do say that he alerted us to the fact that we have a third eye and also an aura, which might have to be taken into consideration during the space age.
Well, for the benefit of those who might hear this program who don't understand some of these terms, would you perhaps give us a little definition of aura, first of all?
Well, the aura is related to the individual what the force field is to a spaceship. An electrical charge that is drawn in from a force field of electricity.
And do you feel that the aura itself is electric or magnetic?
I feel that it is both electric and magnetic because it is positive and negative.
I see. Well, let us bring Al Lotman into the conversation. Mr. Lotman will now ask a few questions. Al?
Well, then, Miss Howard, of the possible launching of a spaceship into outer space, is that a scientific accomplishment, or do you feel that that will be a metaphysical, a spiritual accomplishment?
I think it will be a definite scientific accomplishment.
Well, then, where is the relationship that I gather of your females that you're responsible to Mr. Parrish? Where is the relationship that reason is metaphysical and spiritual?
Well, there is, after all, we know that we have a spiritual side. We know that we have a physical side. And as my experience over the years has more or less proven to me, at least, we are reaching toward another dimension. And in that other dimension, what has been spiritual will become physical, and the spiritual will go on to a still higher realm. In other words, it's dimensional. For lack of a word, I call it transdimensional.
Well, then, Mr. Carr's principle, which you believe is correct, and I have no reason to assume or state that it is not, your assumption that it's correct is based upon your background of science, or is it based upon your background of spiritual forces?
Well, let me say that as I see it, and I can't say that I'm right, that it is largely intuitional.
So, again,
What's the very thing? The first aspect is spiritual, but not anti-spiritual, but what is the physical, but a materialization or crystallization of the spiritual.
yeah. Ms. Howard, again, I'm only pursuing this not in terms of any doubt of Mr. Carr's exploit or your own intuition. I am just trying to arrive at the thinking of somebody such as yourself. If, and this is definitely a hypothesis, and it isn't necessarily so, what I'm going to say, but if a qualified scientist today, one whose background neither you nor I could dispute, were to say blandly that the scientific principle of this spaceship is impossible, would you still believe in the principle?
I would. Definitely so.
So with, again, the point that you feel that regardless of the scientific principles involved, you feel that the era, or either way that we're now entering, simply precludes any real failure, no eventual success.
I definitely feel that it will have an eventual success.
Now, if I could just interrupt for a question. Dana, then, I take it that you definitely feel, let me ask you the question, then, do you feel that the flying saucers that we have had reported are definitely space visitors, or?
I think some of them are, yes. We in the desert have a little better opportunity to see them at close range than you in New York.
Have you seen them at close range?
I mean,
Well, I think we've got to call on Ellery, because Ellery is quite an authority on these. Ellery, would you come in and talk to Miss Howard about these sightings, possibly? Mr. Lanier is an author and has written many things on the same topic. Ellery, Miss Howard.
Hello, Miss Howard. Miss Dana Howard. I'm very much fascinated with the cover of your book, Up Rainbow Hill, this image of a tall mountain with a zigzagging road going up to the peak, and these people walking up it with sort of globular forms around their heads, and at the peak of the mountain top the flying saucers. Is there any connection between this image and Mount Shasta in California?
well, there hasn't been any idea of such a thing, and I asked the artist to create such a design, but I would say that it is possible that many of our mountain peaks throughout the country are, you might say, conditioning points, or points where the saucers might be more prevalent or something like that. I just really don't know.
Well, I want to ask you about the sightings that you have had in Charlotte, but before that, I would like to get some news from home. It has been some years now since I knew a teacher who used to be an instructor in the Invisible School on top of Mount Shasta, and I wonder if you have any words from that school.
No, I think you'll find Calvin Gervin has something quite interesting. He photographed something up there very recently.
Mr. Gervin, I think, will be on later on, possibly.
Well, I'll be very happy to talk to him. Now, Miss Howard, could you tell me something about the sightings that you personally have had?
Well, the first sighting of any consequence I had in 1952. I saw 4 saucers in a pragmatic square. And the lines of force.
What a pragmatic square.
Well, what I would say that one is here and one is here, in a perfect square, let us say that.
At the 4 corners
At
of
the
the
4
square.
corners, but they came down, it came down with a mothership below it. And the mothership, you could see the lanes of force running from the smaller craft
Was
to
this
the
in the
mothership.
desert, Miss
Within the
Howard?
desert, yes.
And you saw this in the California desert?
Well,
It was over the California desert, and even after I had seen it, I felt, well, it couldn't be. But the headlines in the Los Angeles paper verified it next morning, saying, by saucers being over desert.
Now, you saw 4 saucers in a pragmatic square, and you say you also saw the mothership?
The mothership was right below it, and as though you could see the lines of force running down into as though they were refueling or something of that sort.
Miss Howard, was this not an unusual sighting? The mothership
It was. It was the most unusual sighting. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, from what I know, the mothership is usually above the pragmatic square.
Well, this was right in the sunset, and it was very, very clear.
I see they were to the west of you in the sunset. And did you receive any messages from the saucers that you saw?
No, I didn't. I was very anxious to notify a friend of mine who happened to be about a half a mile away. And by the time that I got to the place where she was supposed to be, the saucers had disappeared. Mad and demad again.
Could you tell us how much larger the mothership was than the 4 saucers above the mothership?
Well, I would say that the mothership was quite a bit.
Could you just what size it was, larger than a city block, or...
Well, being that far away, it would be very hard to do. I'm not sure well versed in the dimensions, but I would say that it could have been maybe a mile long. I mean, that's only enough.
I'm just guessing, really. And what color did the mothership appear?
The mothership is the sunset, and took on the hills of the sunset. That was only in the sight that I saw it, you see. But the saucers themselves were the shining disk.
And what season of the year was this?
It was in August.
I see. Now, could you tell me about the other sightings you've had?
Well, we frequently have sightings, of course. As a matter of fact, I had a sighting about 6 weeks ago. Wayne had called me from Baltimore. And as I was going to complete the call, I saw this saucer going across the sky. And as a matter of fact, they were probably in Palm Springs.
You were in Palm Springs?
This is Wayne A. you mean?
And you saw this saucer about 6 weeks ago, did you say? At Palm Springs. Have you ever gotten any messages from any of the sightings that you have seen?
You mean directly from the sighting?
Well, psychic messages.
I've had great impressionistic messages. I mean, I feel that I have been a channeler for some time, and much of my material is channeled.
But not impressionistic messages?
Well, what I mean, the messages telepathic, let me put it that way.
Yes.
Telepathic.
And what messages have you gotten?
Well, my books contain most of what I have.
Well, could you tell us briefly what messages you might have gotten?
Well, one of the messages, of course, has been the knowledge that has come in. I knew nothing of free energy, and my book, Over the Threshold, dealt with these essences, universal energies, and all of that sort of thing, and I certainly knew nothing about it at the time.
Could you tell me, just to conclude this part of our interview, Ms. Howard, what background did you have in science or metaphysics before your experience with
a very little background in metaphysics, none in science.
Mm-hmm. Had you been familiar or been exposed to any of the various groups in California who
No, I hadn't.
searched out these things?
No, I hadn't.
Well, what was your first? Your first saucer was a sighting before you knew?
No, before my first experience was back in 1939 when I had a telephonic sight vision.
I think that's what I mean. Sergeant Haley. Thank you, Ellery. And now, well, we'll go right into that right now, I think.
Well, I can hardly wait to hear what you're going to be telling Sergeant Haley.
Sergeant Haley, will you care to continue this line of questioning, which has opened up suddenly into a discussion of teleportation, I would say, to Venus, was it? Am I to understand, Miss Howard, that you have been to Venus through teleportation?
Through teleportation. My teleporting experience started at the age of 5.
Would you care to describe what you had seen on Venus?
Well, the first thing that I noticed particularly was color. Color that was so transcendently beautiful that we have no words to describe it here.
Are these colors within our spectrum?
I would say not exactly. I mean, the intensity of color is such that we cannot describe it in any terms of color as we know color.
In teleporting yourself to Venus,
I did not teleport myself.
or in, let me restate that.
All right.
Having been teleported to Venus, did you go through a haze prior to the astral body landing on
Well, let me
Venus?
say it this way. I was sitting on a couch, just as I'm sitting here. I felt a decided tingling in my body. And I just finally jumped up and went to a window, and my body was in flames. In flames. And it was extended to the ceiling and extended just for quite a distance. It was a magenta orchid flame of about this color. And when it came out of that, it was sort of an intensification, such as things like with flames. And I stepped to the bar and had a cat. At a distance of about 50 feet away, the cat went up in the air and came down unconscious. I wore that halo, or whatever you want to call it, for a good 6 months after the experience. As a matter of fact, it was very difficult to go out on the street without being stared at.
Well, Miss Howard, I'd like to go back to some of the things that you said earlier and ask questions. And my first question is, you made a statement that when Warren Peck asked you about the experiments to be performed by Otis T. Carr, whether you thought the thing would fly or not, you said, what doesn't happen tomorrow will happen another day. Are you implying by that you have no faith in the craft itself, that you don't expect it to go?
No, not at all, but I understand that the craft is not quite ready for flight.
Well, I was led to believe that the purpose of this particular meeting was to launch it.
I know it, but as I understand it now, that it might be Monday or Tuesday or a day or two later, because they haven't entirely completed the work, as far as I know.
May I ask who told you this incidentally?
I really don't know. It was a young man in the office yesterday.
Oh, I see. You mean you haven't spoken to Mr. Coleman and Mr. Clark? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt me. All right. You were talking about this pseudo-lama who perpetrated a hoax. And you mentioned that even though he had perpetrated a hoax, it was good because it helped enlighten the people with the aura and the third eye. What indication do you have that such a thing as the third eye really exists?
Well, when you set it up as research on that, there's research into ancient literature, and it was there's an indication that he did at one time have a third eye, which is included, and is now called the pineal gland.
When you say you researched, was that an actual travel?
No,
in reading. Isn't it also possible then that the books that you happen to use for research might have been printed by someone or written by someone similar to the man who perpetrated the hoax of the original third eye?
well, that's true, but we have to depend upon something. If we can't depend upon our ancient literature, what are we going to do?
Ancient literature could have been written down eventually by taking something from word of mouth, and you know that when a story is told from one person to another, that someone adds to or subtracts from, so that in itself may not be true. I'd like to ask one concluding question, and this has reference to the flying saucers that you reported seeing in the desert. You said that you could actually see the lines of force.
Well, let me say, it was just like, well, as you've seen it in the sky, just like threads, one mass of threads that was coming down.
It's in reference to this that I wanted to ask a question. Have you ever seen barrage balloons send up from cabins? Would it have possibly been something like this?
No, I'm quite sure that it was not.
You say that it was facing toward the sunset, that with the sun as the background, that it could have been an optical illusion?
Well, I'm not definitely swearing to anything, but the very fact that we have had repetitions of such things would indicate that there must be something to it.
Thank you, Sergeant Taylor. And now Ben Iskowitz will come in and perhaps get back to the teleportation or the aura. I don't know which. I'd like to ask about the mothership. I mean, source of sightings. You saw this over the desert?
With the desert.
You know what a sundog is?
A what?
A sundog? It's an optical illusion. It's caused by the sun, usually over areas such as deserts, where you see several smaller suns near a larger sun. And actually, sometimes even lines stretch out from the smaller sun to a larger sun.
Well, no, I don't believe so, because we have had right over Palm Springs, and I mean just a relatively short distance. We have had them where they've been hanging there, for several hours. There's been too many sightings there for them to be all illusions.
The thing that you said about the third eye, the pineal gland, and researching its ancient writings. Have you ever read what Descartes, the French philosopher and mathematician, had to say about the pineal gland?
No, I don't believe in him.
Well, he thought it may possibly be the seat where the mind controls the body. As far as I know, I think that's about as far back as that was the first time the pineal gland was mentioned.
Well, we had Cyclops, in mythology, and that was the third eye. And I think if you go into some of the Indian philosophy, I don't recall where I had made research, but I thought about it before then, if I haven't looked at it since.
You wrote the first book in 4 days? That's 150 pages.
No, not this one. I mean, it's just
the one?
Yes.
What? You say you don't remember the ancient names of the ancient writings?
No, I just used it as reference. I don't even know what's in this one. I just looked for it as soon as you would.
This aura that surrounded you, or this orchid flame, it lasted for 6 months?
No, the flame did not last. The flame lasted for about 15 minutes. But the effect of that, which I had a picture made at that time, and it showed a force field. It showed a force field around my body. That force field remained active for about 6 months.
Was this a record?
It was visible to me, and it was particularly picked up by a camera.
It was actually recorded on the camera? What is your understanding of what a force field is? Because I heard that term used so many
Well, the way I would describe a force field is this. We have a physical body, we have a molecular body, and we have an electronic body. We have low, medium, and high in electricity. We live mostly in the low. We turn on the medium occasionally, and then when we are in high, we turn on the electrical field, which is the force field. It is something that you can find in the Bible. It was the light that saw on the rock of Damascus, and we'll find this after
most of mankind lives on a level that is way below what he's capable of living on. And you think one of the ways of attaining this higher level is through metaphysics?
No, I don't go along with the metaphysical training. However, I will say that I understand one of our major corporations has picked up my other book and using the techniques that are used in there for the development of this sort of thing.
What are some of these techniques?
Well, one of it is a matter of cleansing the aura, another is bringing in the various cars in order to act as a bulwark against the invasion of the pollutions that we take into our aura every day.
What kind of pollution?
Well, one thing, pollutions caused from a lot of areas, and a lot of maps and all sorts of things we know could see. That looks like, and we probably would find the answer to all of these.
When you were teleportically on, that may be a new word I just made up, on the surface of Venus, do you remember passing through anything? Or do you remember how you got there or anything?
Yes, so it seemed to be, it was vibrational. In other words, I seemed to go through strata after strata of color, and there seemed to be a contractual state that finally ended in what I called the merger of time and space, complete merger of time and space in an absolute.
How does this happen, the merger of time?
Well, it's just, there's no way I can describe it in words. We have no words to describe it. That is one thing I believe we're going to have in order to be able to speak this new language, is a set of words to describe what we're talking about. And the only way I can describe it would be in feelings, and there are no words to describe those feelings.
Something like timelessness.
It's an absolute timelessness, yes.
In answer to Martha's question about were these colors in our spectrum, you said they weren't.
I don't say they were not. I say that they are live colors. They are intensified colors, and colors such as we do not see coming out of a dye pot.
Out of what?
Well, something is our earth products of dye.
Oh, a dye pot. Oh, I thought you said dye pot. I think that had a very interesting half hour here with Miss Dana Howard. Miss Howard, let me just ask you a last couple of questions. Do you think that we're going to have some kind of a breakthrough as far as contact with other worlds this next year or so?
Yes. My book, Up Rainbow Hill, deals definitely with that breakthrough.
Up Rainbow Hill. This is WOR Radio, your station in New York. We have a gentleman by the name of Calvin Gordon. That's spelled Girvin. Girvin. Calvin C. Gordon is the author of a book titled The Night Has 1,000 Saucers. The author of the book was born on October 10th in the year of 1926 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They got some great baloney up there, and I do not mean to imply that we had some here. But Lancaster, Pennsylvania is also noted for the Hamilton Watch Company. And I spent a considerable amount of time in Lancaster. I remember the market up there operated by the Otis and milliners and printers. Of course, actually, we're not really interested in where Calvin was born, but we are interested in some of his very unusual experiences. For this interview, we have Al Robbins, Warren Park, Ellery Lanier, Sergeant Morris Cayley with us, and Ben Isford. First of all, Calvin, I must be honest with you. I've heard about you many, many times because we talk about a lot of these Austin subjects on the party line back in New York. I've never had the opportunity of reading the book. Two reasons. First of all, you never sent me a free copy, and I don't spring for anything. And to be honest with you, I didn't know that you had written the book. So supposing you do a little book review, I'm not going to embarrass you and ask you to tell us whether the book is good, bad, or indifferent. As far as the literary style, but can you tell me something about it? What have you said in the book, sir? Well, I've covered approximately 4 years of my life with the Air Force and where it led me in that 4 years in search of the saucers. And this I have in the Night Has 1,000 Saucers. 4 years in the search of the saucers. Let me ask you this, Calvin. Do you mind if I call you Calvin? Not at all. What created this interest? I mean, why would a person all of a sudden get the idea that they want to go out searching for saucers? For wealth? Yes. For a woman to marry? Yes. But saucers, I don't understand it. Unless you had some very unusual experience. And if you did, we certainly would like to hear about it.
When I was discharged from the Army in 1948, I arrived home in the month of November to find out that my father was quite interested in the subject of flying saucers. Up to that particular time and for a few years afterwards, I could not justify in my mind why my father, along with so many other people, were trying to convince others of the reality of the flying saucers. I at that particular time was one of many of the other millions around the world who laughed at this very controversial subject. I had not seen a saucer. How could I believe anything I didn't see? In the winter months of 1950, I saw my first flying saucer over southern Lancaster County. This object that I saw in the heavens about 12 o'clock again, is that midnight? Yes, midnight, went through movement that I had never seen or experienced before. Could you describe the movement, please? At first, I was trying to justify in my mind. I just got through quite a problem. Why so many people were trying to prove to the world the reality of the flying saucer. I was out looking for it. In looking for them, I did see this object coming down overhead, growing quite large, quite fast, and it grew to the size of what I would estimate that of a half-bushel basket. There it hovered. And while it was hanging there, as though hanging from a string in the heavens, it went through some of the most fantastic color combinations that I had ever seen in my life. Calvin, have you read in the newspapers during the past, I think it broke on Wednesday or Thursday, this week, that the government announced that they have developed a saucer-shaped craft. And it does just about everything that I've ever heard any contactee describe. It goes up rapidly, it lands rapidly, it hovers, it can go in between mountains and valleys. The activity of it is absolutely remarkable. Are you familiar with these articles? They appeared in the paper in the last couple of days. I certainly am, and if you read that article in its entirety, you will find that this saucer that our Air Force is developing has not even been tested. So how do they know what it will do?
All right, that's a pretty good question. I thought I was going to ask the question, and you were going to give the answer. It's been switched on me, and I'm happy for the opportunity to answer one. I don't believe everything that I read, and I'm certainly not going to pass judgment on the government. I think they know what they're doing. Sometimes I disagree with them. They don't contact me personally and ask me my opinion, though. But I was just wondering if it isn't possible, Calvin, that they're not talking about something they may build, but they may be releasing information just a small amount at a time about something that they built 3, 4, 5, or 6, or even 7 years ago, and something that they've been testing for years. And maybe a few of the people, you take a Howard Menger, let's even toss in a Dan Fry, and a couple of people like that. Maybe these people actually had an experience as they described. This is important to bear in mind, please. If a saucer-shaped craft, accidentally landed on Howard Menger's farm in High Bridge, New Jersey, and he went out as the crew was getting out of their saucer-shaped craft, and they did not want to acknowledge the fact or to tell Howard Menger that this was a craft that was specially designed by our government and was something not from another planet. You know, it wouldn't be hard to believe for any intelligent person to have confidence in these men. First of all, we've never seen anything like that before. Never anything landing up close. And maybe to throw this completely to one side so that people are not understand that our government is working on something like this.
that they passed the story around that were Venusians or Martians, and that they will never admit it, and all of a sudden, we now hear the story that they are going to build a craft that will do all of these things. I have a sneaky idea that maybe they built them a long time ago and they've been testing, and now they have it tested. They believe that they have something that will do all of these things. They know it, and now they're going to release it piecemeal. Is that possible, sir?
Those are your opinions, not mine.
Yes, strictly my opinions. I don't know. I admit that, too.
Well, I'll tell you, John, I have been in rocket development in a small way for the past 2.5 years. In those 2.5 years, we developed a rocket motor. When 4 of them are put together into a cluster, would have, could acquire, and now acquire, a million pound thrust, which is quite a bit of thrust. During the month of February, the first Switzerland, this motor was completed. The Air Force bought it. This motor cost millions, if not billions, of dollars in its development from its very beginning until its very end. You know what our Air Force did with it? They put it on the shelf. It's obsolete.
Well, all right, I'll go along with that. Is it true, Calvin, that you've been contacted by the Venusians?
I would make a statement, yes.
Is that a qualified yes?
It is.
Why is it qualified?
Because it is qualified within my own mind. And to me only.
In other words, you're not too sure that this actually occurred?
I am quite sure it happened to me.
Would you care to describe it? Tell us something about this experience.
This is quite an interesting story that took place back in 1952. It's starting on July 4th of 1952. I went to bed quite early one evening, on that particular evening, and I found it a little difficult to fall asleep, and finally I just dozed off. And when I did, I had a very peculiar dream. Now, I'm not asking anybody to accept this as anything other than a dream. Well, even in a dream, going back into the armed forces after spending 4 years in the Army was asking quite a bit. I think I even revolted in the dream, or showed signs of just forgetting it, should I say. And he said in this dream, if I would ask, that I would be contacted on a much, or what we might call the physical plane later on. And if I were to act, they would prefer if I would try and join the Air Force. And if this would happen, I would find myself in very interesting surroundings in the coming years. Well, when I got awakened, and this dream was in my mind, I gave it quite a bit of thought. But of course, as I said before, going back into the armed forces was out of the question. Well, this happened, as I stated, July 1952. He also stated in this dream that if I asked, my actions would be taken at a time when there would be a sign in the heavens. The sign would be a large number of saucers, what we were calling them, over a large city in the country that you live upon. Well, this happened, I believe it was around 17th of July of 1952, there were saucers in large numbers over our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. By that time, I had almost forgotten the dream, but this brought it back quite fresh in my mind again. Perhaps this was coincidence. I tried to excuse it out of my mind as such.
but then again in August. The exact date I do not know, but again in August, saucers in large numbers appeared over our nation's capital. By the 15th of September of 1952, I was back in the armed forces. I was in Airman First Class on my way to Washington, D.C. for my first assignment. This assignment took me to Bowling Air Force Base, where I spent approximately 6 months. After 6 months of duty at Bowling Field, I was asked to be interviewed for a position, and a position it really was, in the command post of our United States Air Force headquarters in the Pentagon. It was in this area that I would be working for the next number of months at the very most. On my way from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to Washington, D.C. to report into Bowling Field, about 35 minutes, I would estimate, outside of Baltimore, Maryland, I made physical contact with a flying saucer about 1.5 miles off of Route 1, and there I met, in a very physical form, the man that I dreamed about several months before.
Did he talk to you?
No, certainly did.
What did he say?
When I looked up into his face, I was quite surprised, somewhat confused.
What was the reason for the surprise?
I believe it was the dreaming sequence.
Did he look like another person?
He most certainly did.
Attired the same way?
I didn't take any particular notice to his attire. That seemed to be of no importance. He gave a glance at me as he didn't say anything, but the look that he gave me more or less projected the question or the answer or whatever you care to call it now behavior.
Did he say anything with you verbally or telepathically?
No, verbally.
Did he seem to be waiting here for you?
I have an idea that he would eventually get to this. This was all brought about while driving down Route 1. Thought came to my mind. The thought of this dream, that if I did act and get into the armed forces, that I would be contacted in a much more real manner. I thought of this. After leaving Baltimore, I did not have the radio on in the car that I was driving, but a voice spoke to me through my automobile radio and told me where to turn off and that they would meet me later at that point of place. And I finally left and this craft was waiting or hovering at its lowest point. I would estimate approximately 2.5 feet from the ground.
So I've been hogging these microphones for some time because I'm extremely interested in Calvin's story. So I'm going to pass these mics around, and we'll start with Al Lockman, and the rest of the boys will get in and ask questions too. Al Lockman.
I believe that you believe what happened to you. Let me ask you a question. You know what an obsession is?
I have a general idea.
Right. We'll define it simply in brevity as an intense interest in a particular subject, so intense that sometimes it may border on being fanatical. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people do become very intense in a subject that they're interested in. Knowing what an obsession is, Calvin, you said you originally had a dream.
That's right.
All right. Your memory of your dream is phenomenal, Calvin, because a dream scientifically has been proven. We all dream, and we rarely remember the contents of the dream, except for a few fleeting parts of it. We are definitely make the dream almost verbatim, which goes against a practicality to begin with. Now, an obsession, again, according to a scientific analysis of it, often leads to dreams. The dreams are of equal intensity, but it is possible to remember them very much and later in your waking hours for them to be real to you. Is it possible, Calvin, that your initial interest in flying saucers, and you say in your own book, and my obsession, for that is what it seems to be. I am not characterizing you as being obsessed with flying saucers. This is a fact characterization. Is it possible, Calvin, that you have been dreaming with obsession?
I might quote it's quite possible that I have been dreaming. And I might quote a line from a Chinese philosopher who once made the statement, "Last night I dreamed I was a butterfly. Today am I a butterfly dreaming that I am a man?"
May I quote, not a Chinese philosopher, but may I quote a report of the Army Surgeon General. I don't know the exact year. It was about 2 or 3 years after the Second World War. And the report was to a particular general who was in charge of enlistment ranking system. They had conducted tests on veterans that fought at that time recent war. They found a surprisingly high percentage of the veterans that were tested, and there were all classifications, ages, types of discharges. They found a not surprising percentage were dreaming with a constancy that was also surprising of being called back into the Army. Might that not have happened to you? It has happened to me and continues to, and I have been discharged from the Army for the past 13 years.
I am not denying the fact. I admitted the fact. But this was a dream, the beginning of it. The end of this experience of making physical contact, as far as I am concerned, was very, very physical. The dream, I did dream it. I'm making the initial contact with this one called Sexton. On September 15th, 1952, this was a physical experience, as far as I am concerned.
Correct, Calvin, as far as you are concerned. And you feel it should be thought, you will pardon the vernacular, as an actual physical experience of yours by others, that they by it?
That is entirely up to the individual. They can accept or reject. It matters not to me.
Well, it should matter to you, Calvin. It matters to me because if this were an actuality, again, you see, I am always impressed by history, by those events that will shape forthcoming events. Now, this is not an indifferent experience you have had. This is certainly not a minor one. This is important to me and important enough to you to have written a book. So I don't think you can wave off my reaction, that of anybody in this room or anybody within your community, the country, or anywhere else. I think it is important. Should I believe Not that is there, not what happens to me or to somebody else.
Well, the point that I'm trying to make is this, that I do my own thinking. And when people read this book, I hope that they will do their own thinking. And if they want to deny themselves the story as I have related it, that is very tricky. If they want to accept it, I'm very pleased. This happened to me. I am just reporting.
And you are reporting this as
accurately as I possibly can.
That I have no doubt. But you are reporting this as an ostensible, real experience. You're not reporting it as something that has gone through your mind and you're beginning it as the real or unreal.
I'm reporting it as something very physical.
Mr. Gervin, you reported your first sighting over Pennsylvania, and you seem to emphasize the fact that there was quite a color change. How long have you been exposed to saucer stories prior to the sighting?
I don't believe there were any stories as such at that particular time. Most of the reports that I had read up to that particular time came in through newspaper services and magazines, periodicals, and so forth and so on.
Did you not say that prior to that sighting you became curious because your father was interested in saucers?
Yes.
My father started before that.
I would say that almost every saucer story talks about this fantastic color change.
I think they do. I think that it adds credence to the overall picture.
Why is this change in light so indicative of a saucer in the eyes of saucer enthusiasts? Why couldn't it be a natural phenomenon in the skies rather than a saucer?
I have never been exposed to natural phenomena as such.
Then you actually don't know whether it was a natural phenomenon because you had not been exposed to one.
Right. The newspaper the following day carried the story as it being a flying saucer. It was reported by other people in the area. I was not alone that evening. In the night, there were other people out seeing the same thing.
I might cite the fact that a news reporter once read his own obituary in a newspaper, and if he read it, he must have been very much alive. By that I mean the fact that a newspaper reports a sighting doesn't mean that it was a saucer. But I'd like to get back to something else. How long were you in the service?
A total of 8 years.
You were in the Air Corps?
Yes.
In what capacity?
I was a staff sergeant.
Flight?
No, I worked. My duties took me into food service most of the time.
Combat time?
No, I was during the first 4 years of my military life. It was with the Army. There I was a rifleman or a cannoneer with a artillery battalion.
Were you on extensive maneuvers with this unit?
No.
You say that you had a vision or a dream. How much exposure to saucer stories did you have prior to the dream?
Well, up to that time, I was about 4 years, I suppose. The story broke, of course, in 1947. This happened in 1952.
Isn't it a fact that when a person is exposed to any particular thing for quite a period, that when physical fatigue takes over and the person goes into a natural sleep, that the mind continues to function
And the thing that is most pressed into the mind or memory is the thing that comes forth in these dreams?
Well, I am not qualified to answer that. I'm not a psychologist. I understand, though, that your statement is accepted as fact.
Well, then wouldn't you assume, according to that, if it's accepted as a fact, and you have just stated that it is, that your dream might have been a manifestation of the thought prior to that particular sleep?
It's quite possible.
Isn't it also true that people awaken from dreams with dreams, believing that when they're being attacked, that it's just as real as though it actually happened?
I've heard of such dreams.
Then these dreams could have been just dreams.
I don't believe that, this is my own opinion, of course, I don't believe that there is anybody qualified to make a qualified statement on such a phenomena, the phenomena of dreams. We don't know what they are. I do understand that a number of leading ministers, our government, are quite concerned on the subject of dreams, and they're giving it quite a bit of study and research. Perhaps a few years from now we will be more qualified to, or I will be more qualified to answer the question.
Going back to your book, this book listed in the catalog in the Library of Congress?
I believe it is.
Is it listed as fiction or fact?
That I am not qualified to answer.
Was it written as fiction or fact?
It was written and presented as fact.
You say that you heard a voice come through your personal radio in your car. Was there a report in the newspapers of any other vehicle or any other radio reporting the same thing?
Not to my knowledge.
How do you account for the fact that only you could hear on a given set frequency a message from someone somewhere without someone else hearing the same message?
I can't explain it because I don't understand it.
Could it have been that through fatigue in driving in your car that you could have imagined these voices?
That's quite possible.
Then if there is a possibility that it was that, then we can't accept this particular statement as fact, can we?
That depends upon the person and whose dream thinking.
Ellery?
The Calvin girl and Calvin C. Gavin. I've been listening to your story, and I'm terribly sorry that you don't have the opportunity to get through all the details of your experience. I particularly like the title of your book. I believe it's taken from the poem by Baudelaire, The Night Has 1,000 Eyes, and the day but one, and so on. The life of the whole world dies when love is done. I suspect that was somewhat the drive behind your seeing the flying saucers. Would I be correct in saying that?
I'm not familiar with the plural.
So how did you hit on the title?
Coming back from overseas, a Navy boy suggested the title.
I see. Well, he probably knew the song.
Probably.
What I did want to say about the book was that I think your book is, if your book is not fact, I think it is a far more important book than if it is fact, because if it is fact, it's something which is rather dull and will be accomplished, and we will know the Venetians, and the Venetians will know us. And frankly, I don't think it makes too much difference whether we know Venetians or don't know Venetians. We know people in Europe, and we know people in Africa, and we know people in Australia, and we still face the same problems in living. But if your book is not fact, then it becomes extremely important, because we are living in a world today where people are more dead than alive in the sense that they are losing their imagination. And the cultivation of imagination is one of the most important parts of living. And if your book is untrue as fact, it is a very fine thing because it is awakening the imagination. And you're having dreams and living in worlds with all sorts of strange experiences and strange people becomes a very important contribution to human life and enriches our experiences. You may think I'm more or less than telling you something of this sort.
I think it's quite interesting.
Well, no, really humid in the room at the moment. Not all wet, just a little bit brown. It's been a very long day and a long night. And we're waiting for the first launching tomorrow. If that thing takes off, history is made. Columbus and the Wright brothers are nothing at all.
It will take off.
It will take off, I hear. I see in the corner Mr. Ipswich is deeply immersed in several algebraic formulas trying to figure out what the relativity is on the Otis and Aaron Tucky.
I'm figuring out the odds of going to give on tomorrow's
Pressing
morning.
his noggin, and I think he's about to say something of great importance.
No, I just about to lay about approximately odds of 10 to 1 on tomorrow's morning. That's about the... It's really mathematical, of course. It has nothing to do with my own feelings in this, Calvin. You definitely feel that it will take off. I mean, barring you, definitely. Do you see the craft, incidentally?
Not the baby.
Are you seeing the larger one or the model?
Well, I've seen, the plans. The theory is quite sound.
You applied to the theory of the accumulators and so on?
I have given it quite a bit of study.
May I ask you a question? I haven't read your book thoroughly, but I've been looking through it outside. In your discussions with the people from other planets, people from Earth, rather, Venus, I'm in pretty good shape, too. Was there any discussion of space flight?
Yes. You mean how they fly it?
Yeah.
Yes, there has been. Of course,
It goes into conversation that I was not familiar with
at the time, and still have very little understanding of it, but they talk of a multi-phase
motor, and when such a motor is designed and built,
that distances, you couldn't name one that they couldn't get to within minutes.
These conversations, were they telepathic or were some of them actual? They were conversations. I don't know if anybody asked you, but I'll ask you again. Were they in appearance similar to people on Earth?
Yes.
I mean,
It could have been the person next door.
was this an adopted form or was this a regular form?
They appear quite relaxed, and
What I need to say was that they adopted this type of form to...
no,
This is what they look like.
They are quite.
I see. I know, how there's I wrote a story for Fate magazine recently and mentioned the fact that the increase in science has become very evident during the proximity of Venus now to Earth. I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but it was reported by Major Kehoe, among other people.
Well, I will make this statement that within the next 4 of our months of this year,
The people to the southern end of our country will see quite a number of what is called flying saucers. Very good, Calvin. Thank you very much for being with us. This is Warren Pack winding you up at Oklahoma City. We've been speaking to Calvin C. Calvin, the author of the Night of 1,000 Saucers, a very interesting book. And we're in Oklahoma City for the working of the CX-1, which is supposed to go off tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Okay, this is baby model prototype. And that's ending right now. Thank you very much, Calvin.
Sorry, according to the time that we're going on out here, it is now just a few minutes after 2. And at 3 o'clock, I understand that they will attempt to launch the OTC circular foil craft for the first time. Whether this will be a successful launching or not, well, only time will tell.
I'm going to interview a few of the people standing around here to get some opinion from them.
First of all, let's walk over here to this gentleman. What is your name, sir?
my name is Albert Guy.
Albert Guy. I understand, Mr. Guy, that you're a full-blooded Indian. Is that true, sir?
Yes, sir, I am.
I was wondering if you have any opinion about the possibility of people going to the moon, sir. What do you think about this?
Well, it'd be a great thing, I guess, but I don't know too much about it. I don't know what it is. It's successful or not.
Mr. Guy, do you think there's a possibility that there are people on the moon now?
Well, that I couldn't say, but
I have my father-in-law who is 93 years old, and he's a full-blood Indian. And we were telling him about the people going to the moon. And he said, I can't say too much about that, but he says the white people are so greedy that they've taken up all the land here now. They want some more land up around the moon. Thank you very much, Mr. Guy. Well, there's an opinion on the part of a full-blooded American Indian on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. Once again, the white people prove that they're greedy. They're trying to take the moon. Well, let's find out. What do you think about this, young man? Incidentally, what is your name? Charles Mugg. And where are you from, Charles? Bethany? Well, that doesn't ring a bell with me. Where is Bethany? It's about 15 miles west here. Mm-hmm. What are you doing out at Frontier City today?
Start looking around.
Well, I mean, did you come out to see this spacecraft or anything?
Well, I've read about it in the paper, and I just want to see what was going to happen.
Then I'd like to ask you something. I've read all of the newspapers out here for the last 24 hours, and I haven't seen a word about it. What newspaper do you read?
One of the was about 4 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, there was a story.
Just a small column or whatever you call it.
All right, just a small column. What do you think about this?
I don't buy that.
Well,
I'll go along with the Jew.
You'll go along with him. You don't buy it either. What do you think about Mr. Guy, the full-blooded American Indian, about his comment that once again the white people are greedy? They not only tried to take everything away from the Indians here, but now they're going to the moon to take it away from the moon people.
I'll go along with him on that.
You go along with everything, huh?
I'll agree with him on that.
Let me ask you this. Are you going along to the moon?
I hope not.
All right. Thank you very much, young man. Nice talking with you. May I talk with you now? What is your name?
Donna Bryan.
And where are you from?
Oklahoma City.
And what are you doing out here today?
Well, I came out to find out more about this space machine.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about it so far?
Well, it's rather interesting. A friend of mine is telling me the series involved behind it. I don't know if they'll work or not, but it'll be interesting to see.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is really a rare opportunity for me because I've been trying to find somebody to explain to me the theories. I have a lot of time. Will you tell me something about the theories?
Well,
Would you mind taking this, please?
Oh, well, I really can't explain it except that it has some magnets in it.
Yes.
And part of it moves in one direction, the other part moves in the other direction, and it cuts across the gravitational field.
I see.
And creates its own power somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
That's it.
Well, something similar to that. I don't know the theory behind it.
You think they'll be successful?
Well, I really don't know. It'll be interesting to watch whether they are or aren't.
I want to ask you this question. If they invited you to go to the moon, of course, they're not going to the moon today. They're not even attempting that. But we've been told that the designer of this craft, Otis T. Carr, incidentally, he's president of OTC Enterprises, he claims that he's going to the moon on December 7th, 1959. Not in the craft that we're going to see launched this afternoon, but in the full-size craft. Would you go along if you were invited?
I think it would be interesting. I'm not sure that I'm out to conquer space, but it might be interesting to see what happens.
You ever thought about it?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think we would find on the moon?
Well, we're told that it's just sort of a vacant planet. Or, it's sort of unknown on it.
Wow. Yes.
And there's nothing going there. It's just craters, and I've read that it's dust for miles and miles, and if anybody set foot on it, well, the nest would all fly up.
I understand you got dust in Oklahoma, too. Why go to the moon for more?
That's true. We didn't.
Thank you very much for talking with me. I appreciate it very much. Well, we've got some other people out here. Let's see. We've got a young man here by the name of Charles C. Carradine with Horizons Unlimited. In other words, you dig this right away, right?
Well, yes, sir. I guess you could say so.
You're with us all the way. I mean, there's nothing mysterious about this.
No, sir.
This is going to go.
Yes, sir.
Today?
We hope today.
That wasn't my question. Let me rephrase the question again. Is this going to? Are we going to witness a successful launching today?
According to Mr. Carr, we are, and he pretty well knows what he's talking about, so I guess we are.
That's an interesting comment. Let me ask you, why do you think that Mr. Carr knows what he's talking about?
Well, it looks like this. If he thought that the thing, well, he'd be sure that it was going to fly before he launched it in front of a bunch of people, wouldn't he?
I don't know. I haven't got the answers. When you have a microphone in your hand, you come over and ask me. In the meantime, I'm asking and you're answering. I really don't know. I want to know from you.
Well, I say it's going to fly.
It's going to fly. Yeah. Thanks very much, Charles. Here's a gentleman by the name of William H. Murray III, Horizons Unlimited. What happened to William Murray II?
Well, he passed away about 4 years ago.
Okay, and you're the third. You're carrying on the Murrays.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
What do you think about this? May I call you Bill?
Sure. What do you think about
the launching that we hope to witness today?
Well, I've heard lectures on the principles of it, and from what I've heard, it ought to work.
You really think it'll work?
It's completely new, well, not completely new theory, but so far there's only one man that's got yet to try it.
Mm-hmm. And that's Carr.
That's him.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bill Murray.
Yes. Howie, I know her. Yes, I know her.
This is Mrs. Dan Fry, and for 8 listeners in the 27 states that we talk to, they certainly know the name of Dan Fry. Dan Fry is the man that claims he went from the White Sands Proving Grounds in New Mexico to New York and back. It's a distance of about 4,000 miles or so in about 36 minutes. We've talked to him many times. We have his very charming wife out here with us at Frontier City. I had the pleasure of meeting her back on May 11th and May 12th in the year of 1957 at Giant Rock Airport. That's located about 17 miles from Yucca, California. And we were out there. We were the guests of Judge Van Tassel. And Mrs. Fry, what do you think about it today?
Well, from what I've heard, I have a theory. Well, can I quote my husband?
You can quote your husband by all means.
He says the theory is fine. It's just a matter of whether it will or will not work. And, of course, we're all hoping that it will. And we feel that eventually it will, if not even today, because of the fact that, after all, the satellites all didn't work on the first time either.
What happened to Dan? Why isn't he out here today?
He's attending another space convention, a space age convention in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is an air show, and they have a booth there, the Crescent Engineering, and he's showing his instruments.
I don't mean to be unkind to the convention or the gathering that we have here today, but would you say the one that your husband is attending is more or less scientific, where this here is a little metaphysical and mystical?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know anything about the other one. I just know that they had a booth there, and he had to operate the booth.
Mm-hmm.
And it is scientific instruments that they are showing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Dan Fry. Here we are again, neighbors. Frontier City, Oklahoma, on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. We reported to you this afternoon that we're out here. It's a beautiful day. We've been talking to a lot of people. We had a very, very unusual experience. We went in this OTC ride. This is actually an amusement park out here. And according to what we've been told, it's just a matter of a few minutes and something's going to happen, the launching of the OTC circular foil craft. At the present moment, I'm sitting in a souvenir shop. And at the particular table that they've been kind enough to permit me to use, I can see everything that's going on outside. I see Dennis Gwitz and Ellery Lanier. They're milling around out there with the thousands of people. There's Warren Pack. Warren Pack, again, has that little pad and pencil out. He must be trying to get some additional information. I wonder if you could be a little quiet over there. Thank you very much. There's a little noise in the souvenir shop. People coming in and buying souvenirs. And I might add, friends, that a lot of the souvenirs were never made in Oklahoma City. In fact, they must be getting mail orders and telephone orders. 259. Well, that means that we have exactly 60 seconds. And in 60 seconds from now, we should see something. Now, I notice that there's a tent over to one side. That is, there's canvas that has been spread over something. I don't know whether that is some construction work going on over there or whether they have the 6-foot prototype model. But I imagine in just a few seconds we'll have more information and more knowledge as to whether or not the OTT circular foil craft will get up. You know, the only problem that they have, and they're greatly concerned about it, according to the engineers out here, they're afraid that they cannot control it, because if it goes into orbit, they have all of them very, very valuable instruments that'll take them another few months to manufacture again to continue the experiment. Morris, what time is it now?
3 o'clock night, John.
3 o'clock. And at the present time, nothing is happening except more and more people are gathering in front of the window of the souvenir shop. I see somebody over there. It looks like somebody is going to make a speech, an announcement of some type. Morris, do me a favor. Will you go out there and see if you can catch Pat? He's over there near the saucer. See if you can get him in a moment, because I cannot hear what's going on the outside. The position that I am in this souvenir shop, I do not know what the announcement is. It looks like Warren Park, yes. Haley has just talked with Warren, and Warren is coming in now. Here he comes, good old Warren. There he is. Yes. That's why I laughed that he talked about Haley's over the south. Warren, tell us, what happened there for us?
Mr. Wayne Aho just announced that there will be an unfortunate 2-hour delay. Approximately 2 hours.
A 2-hour delay?
Yes.
Well, they have the saucer right over there under cameras, don't they?
No, they don't. I had thought that also. But obviously the saucer did not arrive here. It is still back in that warehouse that we visited Saturday morning. Remember that? We were there Saturday about 7:30 in the morning. That building way out on the edge of town.
Well, the one where I did the interview, where we had all of that wet intrigue.
Well, obviously there's more intrigue, but it's dry, hot intrigue today because, as you know, it's about 95 out here. I don't know the exact reason. There's a little bit vague on the reason also, but I know that Major Aho is going to spend the next several hours entertaining the people here by giving a little lecture on various forms of flying saucers and several other people give discussions. But it looks like now around 5 to 5:30.
Well, maybe there's no use tying this up, this booth over here. These people that own this souvenir shop have been very, very kind to me. They've permitted me to use this excellent view, and what can I say? I can only tell you this, that nothing has happened, and maybe it will happen about 5 o'clock. So, neighbors, stick with me. I'll be back with you in a couple of hours.
Well, I was going to say back again. We are back again on the air. And I know by the time you listen to this coming Wednesday night, technically Thursday morning, this particular segment we're doing now, I hope, has been spliced to another segment when Warren Pack got out of the car to find out what's been happening and what the announcement is about. Warren is back in the car with me. Again, let me say it's marvelous to sit out here in this hot Oklahoma sun in an air-conditioned station wagon. Warren, what's happened?
Oh, I hate to spoil your enjoyment, John, but I just found out that there will be no launching today, definitely. This has been assured by, there was an announcement. They asked all the newspapermen to come up to the marshal's office in Frontier City. You know, have an old-time Western town here. And out came this gentleman, I can't recall his name, who represents the Frontier City Association. And he said that there would be a press conference in this abandoned building, or formerly abandoned building.
Well, is that the building that we went to the first night we came into town?
Yes, the same place where we saw the saucer, the small saucer, in 3 parts, and it is still there, obviously. It's going to stay there for some time.
Well, all right, I'll tell you what. I'll ask Dave to get all the equipment together, the recorders and all.
No, John, they've asked that we just have the newspapermen in there. In fact, they're not asking any outsiders in. I mean, this is nothing personal. Make strictly a press conference out of this with a few photographers. I know Sam will be in there, Sam Vanderberg, and I will bring out what they say, but they're not going to do it live. Obviously, they're very upset about the whole matter, and it will be a direct. They don't want anything, obviously, permanent said. They don't know where they stand, and they just want to make it an informal press conference.
Are you trying to tell me, Warren, that I can't walk in there with a tape recorder and record this press conference? Well, pardon me, or press con?
Actually, at press conferences, they do not like... it's a general practice now. It's not an idea down here. At press conferences, they do not use tape recorders. This just happens to be a general practice at most press conferences.
I won't argue with you, Warren. This is your business. You've been in it for years as a reporter. Look, the only thing I can say is you take one of the other cars that we have at our disposal here. Can you take Ellery and Ben?
Yeah, Ellery and Ben will go with me, and we'll probably meet you back at the motel, and we'll give you a quick report on what happened. I mean, everybody's running around here. You notice, you look outside the window, you see that the place in front of the ride is now almost vacant. Sure, everybody's leaving. And I know I really took some up to this other night. They sort of had big smiles on their faces as if they knew this was going to happen. I haven't seen Major A-Hole. I guess they've all gone over to the building.
Possibly making a speech someplace.
Possibly. I think that there were a few words that he didn't say between 3 and 5 o'clock.
If there are, man, I don't know where he hid them. Neighbors, Warren is going to go over to the abandoned warehouse, the one that we had some difficulty, or rather, that I had some difficulty gaining entrance to the first morning that we arrived in Oklahoma City. And there's no use, at least I don't see any reason for me to sit out here, although it's rather comfortable. And I think I'll drive back to Oklahoma City. That's about 6 or 7 miles from where I'm parked in this station wagon. And I'll grab a shower and get a little eat and call today. The fellas sitting in the back seat are kidding about my driving. Fellas, don't talk about my driving. Warren is already getting into the other car, and so maybe we'll be back shortly as far as radio time is concerned, and it may be a space of 2 or 3 hours as far as recording time is concerned. So stick with us. This is WOR Radio, your station in New York, 710 on the dial. Seated around a card table that I have in my room at the motel are 3 well-known members of the LongJohn group: Ben Isquith, Ellery Lanier, and Warren Pack. Now, they've just come back from the abandoned warehouse where the saucer was, and I'm going to speak with Warren first. Warren, I'm going to be honest with you. I am burning. I think I got turned out or something. I'm not attempting to show disrespect to our profession as a journalist. I know that Ellery Lanier is a journalist, but certainly Ben Isquith is not a journalist. If they wouldn't permit me to go in there with a tape recorder, why didn't somebody suggest for me to go in without a tape recorder? Ben went in there. I wanted to know what actually happened. I don't mean to imply that you won't give me an accurate report, but how is it that Ben could get in and I couldn't?
Well, I don't know, John. Really, the whole thing was so confused. First of all, nobody connected with RTC Enterprises had anything to do with the announcement back at Frontier City. This was handled entirely by the publicity force of Frontier City Association. Everybody seemed to disappear. I hadn't seen Norman Colton for some hours. Major A-Hole, of course, was around talking. But then when they had this big announcement, he disappeared also. We dashed over to what we call the abandoned warehouse. Of course, it's in the back of another house, and it's not really abandoned anymore. And I found about a dozen photographers there and about 3 or 4 newspapers. Now, although here, they seem to double up, John. I don't know if you've noticed that the newspapermen seem to be taking pictures also, which is the sign of the small town newspaper, although this is a pretty large newspaper, the Daily Oklahoman. And there were some television people there. And this was not run in any special way. Nobody was in charge. I finally found Norm out in the back, and he sort of shrugged his shoulders about what had happened. He said he didn't know the whole story. And I finally pieced it together from about 5 different people there, including some of the people you interviewed the other night. And the story, as they tell me, and I cannot comment on it, but I have no comment on it, is that the bearing mount on the top of the saucer all of a sudden was 1/16th of an inch off. Once in a while, the gentleman over in the corner, I don't recall his name, but he was giving very sort of pep talk to the workers, and it took all confusion. The place is full of flashing balls. I think Ellery was really more in the middle of it until it was bang. I was out in the outskirts of Norman. They can say what happened.
Ben, I won't ask any questions. There's a microphone. Please report.
I wasn't allowed to go into the warehouse or laboratory or construction shed on that mysterious moonlight morning trip that we made. And this was the first time I saw the saucer. And the first thing I noticed when I walked in there was that the original members of the construction crew or the mechanics were not in the building at all. In fact, when we got back to the motel later, I recognized that the operations chief was here and had obviously been here for some time, and they were a completely different group of people. The saucer had the top taken off, and the cabin compartment was off to one side, and there was a various amount of tools laying around, and the saucer was right in the middle. And photographers were clicking away, and a few of them had movie cameras. And something very funny happened that, it was really a very peculiar thing, is that Al Lockman stooped down to look at the underside of the craft. And he immediately was told to get up, please stand up, sir, by a little charcoal-suited disciple of Major Wayne S. Aho. And I recognize this because the man had an identification badge from Washington Saucer Intelligence. And he was told to get up, and then a photographer who had a movie camera started to photograph the bottom of the ship also, and this little disciple approached him, and there ensued an argument about he couldn't do this and he would have to surrender the film. And I think the man with the movie camera gave him certain directions about where he could go, and it wasn't to the moon. Now, I went back beyond the other people so that I could look at the bottom of the saucer craft, and all I could see was the underside, which was mounted on seemed to be some very ordinary a series of 3 dolly rails. Also, there was nothing quite mysterious about it at all. Also, on top of the saucer, there was a pasted over portion. And this is quite serious. This is no gag on my part. I asked what was underneath it, and they said that they had glued the bearings back in, and the glue hadn't dried yet. And I forsook the opportunity of asking if the glue had come apart. But there's one thing that I noticed. Every single model that has been in our studio, or that we have seen, the neutron accumulator was tilted towards the center of the ship. But the neutron accumulators on this ship is tilted towards the outside, which seems to bear on an opinion I expressed to Warren earlier, that there never was a set of engineering drawings for this thing. It seems to have been, go can.
Let me just for a moment. I'm a little hot here again.
I don't blame you.
I'm very burned about this. You just tossed in another name. Now, after all, I'm not against Lockman. This is not anti-Lockmanly.
But where does Lockman come in on this, too?
I am the guy that made the whole thing possible to go down there, and the one person that they refused to permit in the abandoned warehouse is LongJohn. Why is this? What is this, Tom?
Wait a minute. What do you want? I was going to say, John, that you know that you had a little difficulty getting in there first night, and several people, one of the former military men who were connected with OTC Enterprises, are very hesitant about recordings and so on. We've been talking about a particular thing like this, and I just wanted to say that you might have had your small microphone in your lapel, possibly. And, of course, you know that he is very worried about secrecy and all these kind of things. And he worried, as Ben said, about the looking underneath the bed, or was it the cupboard, or looking underneath the saucer. I forget which it was. But, of course, you have to realize military mind, John, it's a very wondrous space of his own, and perhaps a little strange at times. And over secrecy is the sign of the military mind, always. secrecy, and more secrecy.
Well, all right. But well, John, I have some information that might have something to bear on this, and this is not a routine, but somebody in the crowd who was behind me, who I've never seen before, who I didn't see the night that we went out there, and he was wearing some kind of army shirt and pants, and it looked like he may have been one of the workmen, although I've never seen him there before. He was commenting to somebody about, I caught your name, I sort of half turned and listened, something about LongJohn being the most dangerous man in sorcerdom, because he exposes these people and has an earring of 5.5 hours and doesn't treat them fairly, or something like that. I have not seen that person since. I've not seen him back in the motel. It was the first time I saw him, and I can't remember his. I can remember his face, but I haven't heard his name or seen it before now.
You don't have to remember one individual face, Ben. When you go out to any of the conventions, you'll be able to pick up maybe 400 or 500 faces if they have that many people. The people who believe that LongJohn is detrimental to saucerdom because they don't buy a lot of things. A lot of people think that I'm being unfair. I think I've been more than fair, and I think anybody on the program will agree, and I think many listeners. We listen to the story, but we just don't buy these things. We want to see more. Now, we've spent a couple of days out here, and the craft was not launched. Now, since then, I've talked to some people, too, and I sort of changed my mind. Last night, I thought maybe something would happen. Well, I don't know. According to what I hear, they may try to launch it tomorrow. Now, whether we'll be around at that time, I don't know. Ellery, did you want to add something?
Yes, son. This was a very interesting second visit to this strange shack hidden behind the abandoned corrugated iron factory on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. And my second visit, I would say, was an amusing visit. The first visit was a very profound experience. And on this second visit, one of the technicians present, a man, well, I won't mention his name, told me that the trouble was that the lid wouldn't fit. And immediately I looked at this device, and it looked like a great big pot, a big cooking pot, and somehow you had to get the cover on this pot before you started the meal going, and you couldn't get the lid, and the thing might explode. The parts might fly apart, and the whole trouble was that there was a 16th of an inch that had to be shaved off. And then, besides that, there was a very interesting and romantic note. Along the atomic pod, the neutronic regenerating devices, the technicians who had worked on this device with Herculean energies through nights and days for the appointed hour, these gentlemen had each in turn for the historic moment inscribed their names in black wax crayons around the disc. And there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names which I hesitate to mention at the moment, but it was a real romantic and touching event. And then I spoke very seriously to one of these men, and he assured me that previous models had taken off and been lost in outer space. If this was so, then when the lid is fitted on, there's a tight fit, the thing can spin, it should take off. But that remains to be seen. I also got an accurate count on the weight. There were various reports that the baby fourth, as it is called, that was about to be born would weigh 600 pounds, and then someone said no 200, and another said 300. And the final report I got was 650 pounds, which is excellent for a newborn baby.
Let me just interrupt now, Ellery. Of course, we're working under a handicap here. We're working with a small a small hand microphone. Do me a favor, when you're holding this microphone, don't move it around and move your hand on it too much because it creates a lot of strange noises, and we don't want anybody to think the strange noises are from the launching of the OTC circular foil craft. Could you complete your thought for the moment?
Mr. Barr, I did want to mention that the neutron regenerators were a very brilliant red color, which made the machine rather garish. But that is a note for historical records.
I thought that was a note for our artistic listeners. Do you want to add something?
Yes, Pete Ballin, is that the way you pronounce your name? He's the chief operating engineer there. He said, very heartbroken tones, we can't sacrifice 35 years for 1/16 of an inch, which was his indication of what the whole trouble was. I'd just like to mention one more gentleman because Mr. M. Maywood Jones of the Space Form Engineering Department of OTC Enterprises. I asked him what Space Form Engineering was, and he said it's like sales engineering. In other words, engineering sales is sales engineering. Space Form Engineering is engineering space form. And he developed it in a form, and he says he interprets Mr. Carr's ideas in three-dimensional illustrations. So I said to him, are you an engineer? And he said, no, sir. And he said, I said, are you a draftsman? He said, no, sir. I was going to ask him what kind of cigarettes he smoked then, but then I realized he might be a thinking man and I didn't want to start any trouble. This is WOR Radio, your station in New York, LongJohn with the party line. And, we're not even going to be able to do everything this morning. We have a couple of other things to do. Tomorrow night, too. We have maybe around 2.5 or 3 hours additional tapes to be used tomorrow night. So, although we still have more now that we're going to do, one thing in particular is what happened Monday morning. This is a very, very exciting bit. In case you joined us, actually, we didn't take a coffee break this morning at all. But in case you joined us during the past hour or so, I'd like to remind you that in the Hearst Headline Service, Warren Tutt had an excellent article about what happened out in Oklahoma City and in Frontier City. And there's some other stories that will be breaking in the near future in Faith magazine. Also, a national magazine assigned our friend Ellery Lanier to do a story. We have over 1,000 photographs that were made out at Frontier City and Oklahoma City, which will be seen in many of your national magazines during the next couple of months about our safari to Oklahoma City. And, I'm telling you, we're going to bring you right up to date on all of these things because, without a doubt, we had a tremendous amount of pleasure out there, and the craft is absolutely fantastic. Now, there are many rumors as to the height that it reached when eventually it was tested, when it was launched. I am not saying it was launched. You listen, and we'll get all of the details. Now, there was a young lady. There was a lady out there. I'm certainly not going to say anything about her age. I really don't know her at all, except that in my room at the motel, and it was a very, very large room, had 2 full-size beds in it. On Sunday night, or I might say, I guess by now it's about 1 o'clock Monday morning, there were about 5 or 6 people on both beds. And altogether in the room, I would say there were about 35 people standing, sitting on the floor, and what have you. There was one lady that made some comment about my method of interviewing. Now, I will admit that this lady certainly has a right to her opinion. She had never met me until I went out to Oklahoma City, but she said she knew a lot about me, and she was under the impression that I was extremely rough with all people that believed in flying saucers. And she told this to me off the air, and I said, look, I have a microphone here. I'll let you tell your story.
I don't know if you do it to everybody, but I mean, yesterday, last night, and last night, I think you're clobbering Otis Todd. And I think that what he's trying to do is with God, and I think it's going to happen, regardless of what all you fellas here think. And that's my belief, and I don't like what was going to do. Turn down, turn the couch, and stretched on the rack, and turned upside down, and tossed and twisted and turned. It hurts me inside, because I have faith in this man. And I think he's going to work. That's what I said, just like it said on his tape tonight, that this photographer over there heard the tape, and I think when your photographer came in there, he was very skeptical. But I watched him all evening, and I saw him wandering around all over the room, looking at all these so-called crazy flying saucer people. And when your photographer left that room, he came out of there a different man.
You talking about our photographer,
Yes.
Sam Vanderbilt?
Yes.
Charlotte,
I think he was really convinced tonight
Charlotte, may I have
that some of these crazy flying saucer people aren't as crazy as he thought they were to begin with.
Charlotte, you've embarrassed me.
I
For
have.
this reason. No, you
Huh?
haven't. We're on the air, though, and I'm going to go through with it.
Well, I'm just telling you what I believe.
Fine. Charlotte, this is understandable. Did you see us arrive here when we got off the plane? Now, just a moment. Charlotte, please, let me complete this thought.
Sorry.
Charlotte, did you notice the two gentlemen with the white jackets that got off the plane, too? They came with the photographer.
No, I was so interested in seeing whether you were going to be frightened or whether you were going to take it in stride that I didn't see anybody else.
Let me just say this to you, Charlotte. One such as Sam Vanderbilt is one of the nicest guys around. That's why he's with us. I don't agree with Sam.
You don't?
Sam buys a lot of these things. All I know is that Sam is one of the pedophiles, a real friend of mine, and he buys a lot of this nonsense. I don't. But let's get back to cars.
Well,
Wait a minute. No.
Wait a minute.
Just wait a minute. Just
Listen,
go ahead.
Well, in California, it's common knowledge that you don't buy anything.
Do they mention my name?
Oh, yes. All the
That's
people
all
in
I.
California.
That's what I want them to do.
We can't hear you all the time, but we know what you're doing.
right.
And we all talk about LongJohn. He never buys anything.
Right. Now, Charlotte, let me just make this point. I think you're being extremely unfair this morning when you say that we've been clobbering cars. We haven't. I mean, we don't, let us say that at the present moment we have not seen the craft launched.
Neither have I.
Oh, fine.
But I still believe in it.
Well, this is your right. This is your right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not sitting here and saying, Charlotte, you shouldn't agree or believe. But do you know that members, that is the executives of OTC Enterprises, have been on my show in New York, I would say at least 8 times, and if I'm correct in estimating 8 times, that means that they've been on the air for over 40 hours. Do you know that the average interview is done in a period of 30 minutes? Can you stop to figure this out a moment, Charlotte? That 40 hours, basing it on half-hour shows, would mean that they have been on 80 times on WOR. How many times have they been with Ben Hunter in L.A.?
Well, I'll answer that like this.
No, answer it. Just tell me.
If these people from Otis Cars Enterprise have been on your show for 80 hours talking
80
about
half
this,
hours.
80 half hours and 40 hours talking about this wonderful project, and they haven't convinced any of you guys yet of its worth, well, then all I can say is that the world has really gone to the dogs.
Or would you say that possibly we're just non-believers?
That's possible.
How many hours has Otis T. Carr been on the Ben Hunter show in L.A.?
Well, I never heard him on the Ben Hunter show, but I didn't meet him on the Ben Hunter show.
Oh, was he on the Ben Hunter show?
I belonged to the Understanding group, and he came as a lecturer in my group in San Fernando Valley.
Was he on the Ben
I
Hunter
met him,
show?
and I only had to meet him that one time and talk to that man, and I felt his sincerity, his honesty, and I believe that what he was doing...
Was he on the Ben Hunter show?
Yes, he was, but I didn't hear him.
How long?
I didn't hear him that night.
But you know he was on.
I think he was on.
Charlotte, thank you very, very much, and happy sausage.
Don't think that I'm mad at you. Only I know a lot
You like me?
Yeah, I think you're a swell guy.
Thank you very
Only
much.
I don't like the way you pick everybody to pieces. Because some of these people who come in here and want to talk to you, a lot of these things that they want to tell you are very sacred to them.
All right, fine.
And it's just like you take somebody that's an innocent person and put him out in the middle of the desert and put him down on a cross and let the vultures stand over him, waiting for him to get half dead.
Charlotte, thank you very much. Nice talking with you.
That's the way I feel about it.
Good night.
I'm sorry.
We're going over to the table now. I see that Warren Pack has located Norman Colton of OTC Enterprises. At this time in the morning, I can't even say OTC. Norman Colton has been with Otis Carr for a number of years, and unfortunately we can't go over to Mercy Hospital in Oklahoma City to interview Otis T. Carr, and so we've been hunting, frankly, for hours now, and eventually we located Otis, rather not Otis, but Norman Colton, at the place where they've been working on the saucer, and Warren Pack brought him into the room now, and we'll find out from Norman we'll get a report from Norman about what happened yesterday. Of course, yesterday was Sunday, the 19th day of April, the year of 1959. We were told during an interview that we made with Otis T. Carr at Mercy Hospital on Saturday afternoon that, the 19th day of April was a very important day. It was the anniversary of the ride of Paul Revere. And that sort of concluded my interview with Otis T. Carr. He left himself wide open for me to come back with a remark. And I said to Otis, do you think that possibly somebody else is being taken for a ride? And he sort of laughed, and we left the room, his room at Mercy Hospital. Now, Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, that was yesterday, just about 12 hours ago. I guess it's just about 3 o'clock now. Monday morning in Oklahoma City. And nothing happened. Of course, there was an opportunity for the press to go over to see the saucer, but it wasn't launched according to schedule. So let's find out from Norman Colton what happened. Norman, it's all yours.
Well, first, John, I'd like to say to the people within range of WOR's party line that the only thing we're really disheartened and dispirited about is the fact that so many people came such great distances and had to go away without being able to see what they came to see and what we sincerely hoped and expected they would. The actual mechanical difficulty that made it impossible to launch the craft today as scheduled was a very minor thing. It took only a few minutes to correct of itself, but because the craft had to be disassembled, or partially disassembled, and reassembled in order to get the one part out that needed a few thousandths machined off of it, the time we had remaining of the afternoon to get the craft from the shop over to Frontier City and then out to the launch and test area was just all consumed. We knew it would be dark, and so we had to decide at that point not to keep people in suspense any longer, let them know the real facts. And so, as you said, we had the announcement made at Frontier City that the launching would not go off as scheduled this afternoon, but we invited the members of the press who were on hand waiting to come over to the machine shop and see for themselves that it was only a minor difficulty that could be quickly corrected, and sometime today, that is Monday the 20th, we expect to continue with the program, reschedule the flight test, and invite the members of the press to come back again, those who were able to stay over, and see a successful launching of the 6-foot diameter OTTX-1.
Norman, I don't know, I've got dozens of questions, but I think it would be rather...
Yes, to ask him at this time. I know that you've had a kind of a rough day, and I know that all of the directors of OTC Enterprises Incorporated of Baltimore, Maryland, are certainly not particularly happy about this delay. Supposing we wait until tomorrow and just hope, and if we can stay and around late enough, maybe we'll be able to witness the launching. And if not, we wish you good luck.
Sure, thank you, and I hope you can stay, because, I repeat, the only thing we're unhappy or uncomfortable about is that we've disappointed so many people. We will hope that they'll be watching their TV screens and listening to WOR when the first announcement is made that we have been able to validate Mr. Carr's principles.
Thank you very much, Norman Colton. WOR Radio, your station in New York, LongJohn with the party line. Now, let me just make a brief comment. We're live again at this point. I am, at this moment, just slightly confused because the next portion of the tape, I don't know whether I describe in detail what took place after we completed the interview with Norman Colton. If I'm being... So, I guess it was about 3:30 or so, and I said goodnight to everybody. And Charlene Sturgis, a young lady whose husband, David Sturgis, passed away about a year and a half ago, the well-known astrologer, and she was there, too. And she, in turn, left with the group. And I don't know if she had some, some ability at precognition or something like that, but she said to me, John, I wonder if they're going to do something to launch that saucer about 5 or 6 in the morning. Well, I thought that, maybe the late hour was detrimental to her mental health for a moment. And I said to her, I don't know, Mrs. Sturgis. You go back to with Margaret Storm and get a good night's sleep, and we'll see you in the morning. Well, after everybody left, and I bid some of the people that were with me good night, I went back in my room and decided to take a shower and possibly get to bed. And I took the shower, and I decided I'd take just a little walk around the grounds for around 15 or 20 minutes. And I slipped on a pair of chinos and a shirt and the jacket. And believe me, it was cold after getting out of the shower. And I walked around and I saw somebody down at the end of or rather in the front of the motel. Of course, I had a beautiful office there, coffee all night long, free too, I might add. Ice if you need this, not for your coffee, but for something else that you may have handy around. And I saw somebody walking around near the swimming pool. And it turned out to be Sam Vanderbilt. And I said, Sam, what are you doing up? By now it's about 4 in the morning. Well, he said, John, something's going to happen about 5 or 5:30 in the morning. I said, what do you mean it's going to happen? I said, I'm on the inside of all of this. And he said, John, it's going to happen. Well, I said, who else knows about it? Well, he said, naturally, Colton knows. And he said, Lanier knows. I said, where's Lanier? He said, he's in Colton's room. So I walked over and rapped on the door, and there's Lanier. He is seated in Colton's room. Colton is sound asleep. I think you could have put a bomb under him and nothing would have happened. But Lanier is in there typing a story. And I said to Ellery, what are you up for? He said, I'm writing a story. I said, don't con me, Ellery. Something must be going on because you're not going to write a story all night long when you could be getting some sleep and you need it. Well, he said, I am wide awake and I thought I might as well do it now. I said, well, why do you do it in Colton's room? Why don't you go to your own room and write your story? To make a long story short, after I pestered him a little bit, I found out that he had an idea that something would happen at 5 o'clock. Now, how Charlene Sturgis and Ellery Lanier and Sam Vanderbilt had the same idea at the same time, I don't know, but I have a hunch. Nevertheless, I decided to stay up. And I must admit that I only had about 5 or 6 hours sleep during the entire 3 or 4 days that we were in Oklahoma City. I went down to the office of the motel, got a couple of containers of coffee, that is in these glass, what do they call them? Carafes or carafes or carafes, I think, something like that. Nevertheless, I brought them back to my room, and Sam had a sliced chicken sandwich and a piece of Danish, and he brought that in, and Ellery came in, and we decided to eat that, and about 10 minutes to 5, Sam jumped up, grabbed my phone, called room number 31. Colton, evidently we couldn't get him up with just the ringing of a telephone bell, and so we went over, knocked at the door. No one answered. We got a pass key from the manager of the motel, the night manager. We went in. We tried to get Colton up. Eventually we did. We went over to Mrs. Sturgis' room. We awakened her, and we got our friend Warren Pack, sports writer for the New York Journal-American, up, and we left the rest of them sleeping. That is, Al Lotman and Dave Field and Ben Isquist, and so there was Ellery Lanier, Sam Vanderbilt, Mrs. Sturgis, Walter McGraw, Warren Pack, and LongJohn. It is now 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, maybe, and it's just 5 o'clock now, too. At the stories I'm relating it happened at 5 o'clock. Bitter cold. And we decided to drive out to the abandoned warehouse and from there go out to the launching pad. Well, I'm not going to say any more. Let's hear what went on the following morning as I recorded it on tape.
Hi, neighbors. This is LongJohn with the party once again. With the party line, in fact. If I sound exhausted, I am. We haven't been to bed. Actually, well, I guess since we've been out here, we've had maybe 4 or 5 hours sleep. We interviewed Norman Colton of OTC Enterprises, and no doubt you've just heard that, because according to my plans, what we're taping right now will follow the Norman Colton interview. We arrived out at the abandoned warehouse about 5:15 this morning. And although it was a beautiful sunny day yesterday afternoon, this morning it is cold. 5 of us came out in one car, and we were told that there would be at least 3 or 4 people out here to take the craft outside to attempt to levitate it at least a few inches off the ground prior to taking it out to the launching pads. Well, friends, I can only tell you this, that it is now 9 o'clock, and they have just opened the doors. We are now in the building itself, where they still have the OTC circular foil craft disassembled. I understand within another hour and a half or 2 hours, they're going to put the third section on and then put the dome on it. Now, what's going to happen? I do not know. I can only tell you this, that we're physically exhausted. We're watching. We're waiting. Warren Pack is here. He hasn't had any sleep. And Warren, I wondered if you wanted to comment on this at all.
Well, we seem to be getting closer to whatever is going to happen right now. A few minutes ago, the crew reported, and they were rather tired, too. In fact, I think one of them said it was the first night he'd been home in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I think that in a little while they're going to try to put it together again. I noticed on one corner one of the gentlemen is oiling the bearing that gave so much trouble yesterday, but there's one other problem right now, the extreme cold. Yesterday, as you remember, the temperature was well up in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And, of course, with the heat, you have an expansion of all parts. Now, today, I would say the temperature isn't over 40 degrees outside. and with a cold wind, and they were worried about raising the heat level in this rather drafty corrugated barn, I might call it. And they were worried about the possible contraction of the parts, and then another problem that we ran into yesterday, except it would be the reverse. In other words, they have honed down this bearing, which is now over in the tail, you see. He's working on putting lubricant into it. Now, this could possibly be off again because of the cold. They're trying to heat up the place. You have the electric heater there. They have a gas heater outside. And, of course, people are starting to crowd around. I think by word of mouth, this news is getting out here. The rest of the boys showed up, as you noticed. Al Rodman and Ben, and Morris and Dave.
At least they got a little sleep, though.
Yeah. And after all looking around a little bit anxiously, Ellery has been talking to the engineers, and of course now they're getting close to what they hope is launching time. They're giving out a little bit more information than they gave before.
Right.
In fact, they even permitted us to look underneath the saucer.
I think I'll walk over here with the equipment and see if we can listen into the conversation that Ellery is having with the engineer.
Cross out that first one there.
All right. Now,
Eugene, C-A-R-I-N-I, Carini.
Now, the basic principle, now we know that when we have these circles of magnets rotating, you have a spiral field of magnetism going around in a donut shape, which intersects the gravitational field of the Earth, and that will develop the lift.
Right. Correct. That's right. In other words, what we do is act with the field of the Earth, and all we have to do is change the polarity at any given point, and as you know, we get the variation that we're looking for in either direction.
And this very fabulous thing that you have, I think, for the first time really described publicly about the magnetic field. The first time that it has been announced publicly, the magnetic field developed by these field coils intersects the double cone coil on the rotatable inner disc, generating an electric current within this double cone, which is then transmitted by circuitry into the neutron, where in turn it is again transmitted to the circle of field coils, generating again, and this creates this donut of magnetic fields going around the spirals, intersecting the Earth's magnetic field, and away we go.
Could you give me the price of two of them? I could use both of them.
I tell you, he's got it perfect.
He really has. He's done it good. That was the voice of Ellery Lanier interviewing a couple of the engineers here, and I know that Ellery has some additional questions to ask, and we'll sort of step to one side and walk around here and see if we can get an opinion from some of the other fellas. Again, I repeat, no sleep. But we may be here watching history in the process of being made. I doubt it, but we're listening. Al Lotman, opinion?
Still waiting to see anything other than an uncovered bit of Rube Goldberg type invention.
That's your opinion?
Exactly.
I think myself, I think they have something that has a great chance of going.
There's been a big change, John, in the past, roughly 5-6 hours while I was sleeping.
I'll agree with you. Been a change in the weather. Ben Nisquith.
It's incapable for me to think before 10 o'clock in the morning. Therefore, I couldn't possibly form an opinion any different than the one I had yesterday.
Mm-hmm. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Well, I don't know, neighbors. We're walking around. It's mighty cold in here. And I think that's about all we can say at this moment. We'll be back with you in a couple of minutes when we have a little more information. This is WOR Radio, your station in New York, 710 on the dial. And this is LongJohn with the party line. Yeah, and we've got something, too. Oh, boy. A lot of disappointment. A lot of fun. And we went back to the motel, made some more tapes, which we just won't have time tonight to use. I'm going to use them tomorrow night with a group of engineers. We had a symposium out there.
and some other things. Incidentally, Dave Field, don't forget that Russ Dunham. We want to take that, the aircraft engineer and all. So, you know what I think we should do? Let you hear what we have on the tape now. This is sort of the wrap-up as far as Oklahoma City Airport was concerned at that time. Can we hear that now, please?
Well, I guess this wraps it up for another 3 or 4 days. We're going to be leaving Oklahoma City in about 40 minutes. And, of course, the OTC circular foil craft did not get off the ground. We received a call from Norman Colton over at our motel just a couple of minutes before we took the cars back to the airport. And according to Norman, we may get a call at the airport here before we leave for New York again. So, neighbors, I can say that we've enjoyed it out here. And, well, when we get on the plane, I'll get a report from some of the fellas. We'll get their opinions. Well, neighbors, this just about wraps up the trip. We're on flight 208 en route to New York from Oklahoma City. And we left 2 of the boys back in Oklahoma City, Sam Vandervert, the photographer, and Ellery Landier. At this point, I don't know what Ellery's doing out there, but I don't think the craft will ever get up. Or at least, when we left, nothing happened. I've got with me Dave Field and Bennett with the cybernetician, and, of course, Sergeant Morse Paley from the Perth Amboy Police Department, Al Lotman, and Warren Pack from the New York Journal-American. Warren, supposing you tell us, well, you must have some opinion about what happened.
Well, I must say I was disappointed only in that the finish was not as fine a production as I would expect from Norman Colton and some of his associates. I didn't expect that this thing, meaning the 6-foot prototype, would ever get off the ground, at least not under the neutron accumulators. I think that the people in Oklahoma City were very nice. I'm talking about the natives now. Everywhere we went, they were very warmly received. And we met some very nice people. This young astrologist, Zip, she was a very lovely girl. And a lot of other people, but all in all, it was a nice trip both ways. I mean, a little bit rough, possibly. We didn't learn anything we didn't know before. Actually, the plastic 18-inch model works a lot better than the aluminum 6-foot craft. And that's about it. I don't know what else you can say. It's nice to get back to New York again. And the best thing about it, as I said, was a very friendly reception we got from the people in Oklahoma.
Well, Warren, that's your opinion. I don't have too, much to say about it. I think Al Lotman may want to say a word or two. Al?
Contrary to you, Warren, I'm not in the least bit disappointed. In a sense, I expected nothing. I had not even a feeling, an absolute conviction that it never would work, that if it did work, it would be to such a minute extent that it would prove nothing. And not that I'm happy about it. I am never pleased with the failure of anybody. I would have liked to have been surprised, but I cannot pretend disappointment. So from a strictly personal viewpoint, I've had a great time because our own companionship, we've had a million laughs, not at the expense of anybody else, with ourselves. And although some of the people who are associated with the Enterprise may feel very badly, I don't, because I think they were living in a false paradise. It's contrary to anything in physical laws. They attempted to use some form of mystical thinking in order to attain their objective, and they should realize that that is just not going to occur. As for our own group, Warren, as you will certainly confirm, we have had a wonderful time, and for that, I'm certainly grateful to everyone who received us so cordially. John?
Well, neighbors, I imagine that you hear the roar of the motors, and that means that we're taking off from Washington, D.C. We had some fantastic idea, or at least we heard some people out there that had some fantastic ideas that our government would be very, very interested in the OTC circular foil craft. Well, I don't know. At this point,
I don't think anybody is interested in anything. But who knows? Maybe by the time we get this on the air, maybe they'll be in business. Maybe the craft will work. I just want to take a look down the line here. Sergeant Morris Paley is behind me. Sergeant, you want to take it?
Yes, John. Mine is a feeling of mixed emotion. Coming out, intending to see something, we were filled with exhilaration and more or less over-jubilant. And now on the way back, as we start taxiing down the runway for our last leg home, I don't know whether it's a feeling of regret that we have left after having such a wonderful time running this thing down, or a feeling of disappointment in that we did not see the craft go up. However, I feel that the boys that are still there watching the progress of what's going to take place will keep us fully informed as to what is going to happen, and until such time, a slight expectation will run high. But nostalgia sort of rules deep, and I'm sort of swelling a bit, so I'm going to turn the mic over to Ben Isquith for further comment.
Well, Morris, I somewhat disagree with you. I have no expectations, and I had no expectations when I went out there, except to have a terrific time, which we did with these crazy friends of ours that we call the LongJohn panel. I never laughed so much in 3 days of my life. But what happened was exactly what I expected to happen. In fact, it was nothing. Also, right now, on the last leg of the trip from Washington to New York, in spite of all the fun we had and how nice the people in Oklahoma are, I feel a great sense of goodness coming over me and getting home. Home to New York cooking, and New York sanity.
Well, I've got the mic back again. This is LongJohn with the party line. And we're over Washington, D.C. At this moment, there's another plane. Looks like it's going right in front of us. No, crossed under us. So, neighbors, we've got, I think, about 50 or 60 minutes before we'll get back to Manhattan. I think I'll try to catch up and get a little shut-eye. And, well, we'll be back most likely live when this tape is used over the facilities of WOR.